Alright, let's watch how I roll into Skagtown in my fancy carriage with the family crest waving proudly. First thing I see is a chubby guy literally rolling down the hill to greet me, like a human bowling ball. Meet Moore, my new farm administrator. Super fancy title for a guy who just yells at slaves and collects taxes in this absolute dump my father gifted me. Yeah, gift, but let's be real, I got exiled. Old man, the great Duke Cracks Gale himself, one of the 3 great leaders under the Black Iron King, decided his illegitimate son needed a permanent change of scenery. They say our ancestor pierced a fire dragon's scales with a single arrow shot, almost killed it, which is where our name comes from. Super heroic, very cool. And now, generations later, the prize of his bloodline is me on a rocky hill watching 50 slaves pretend to work. Moore is sweating like a snowman in a sauna. Poor guy only got 2 days' notice that a real lord was coming. Best he could manage was a half-cleared field. No house, no mansion, not even a decent shed. He stammers making excuses. Won't even look me in the eye. He probably thinks I'll chop his head off for fun, because that's what angry nobles do, right? Honestly, I'm not even mad. This place is perfect. Green hills, thick forests, a huge clean river, and perfect soil. Everyone thinks I lost, but the joke is on them. But wait, look at this. Right then, a wild notification pops up directly inside my mind. Game loaded. Neural link established. Consciousness active. Do you wish to create your destiny? Well, now things are getting good. Alright, here is my tragic backstory. In my past life, I was a student who died playing a mobile game called Noah's Ark instead of studying for exams.
Yes, I died gaming.
No, I don't want to talk about it. And yes, I deserve all those judgmental looks you're giving me right now. Then I woke up as a noble baby in this medieval fantasy world, which would be cool if everything didn't smell bad, and nobles weren't parasites. Even my own family, the powerful Crackscale, just fancy leeches with a dragon-hunting ancestor. Mobile game followed me into this new world, except it took 16 years to load. 16 years. In internet cafes with better connection speeds. As soon as the system turned on, I knew I had to run from the family estate. A massive war is coming. The nobility is rotten to the core, and I don't plan on sinking with that ship. So I demanded my inheritance from my father, and I took off to the edge of the world. They think they punished me, but between you and me, I chose this. So the game boots up and asks for my name. Roman creates his destiny profile, which is basically what they call players. Instantly I discover the cruel joke. The only feature unlocked is Vital Breath mode, which is just farming, chopping wood, mining, and weeding. Such a system to summon cool warriors called apostles is locked. Epic battles, locked. Strategy mode, locked. Every single fun thing is completely locked. I get 100 crystals for daily login. Summoning an apostle costs 160. No starting bonus. Game gave me a hoe and said, good luck, loser. I named my farm Origin because I'm actually a pretty sentimental guy, and the game immediately projects it over my real territory. A pixelated version of the Ryle Hills, the river, and the forest right ahead. Any pixel character standing there. Yep, that's me, the exiled lord with a farming simulator inside his head. Meanwhile, poor Moore has been apologizing non-stop, and I didn't hear a word because I was staring blankly at floating menus. You and I can see he is having a panic attack, thinking my silence means I'm planning to hang him. Literally imagines I will have him stripped naked and thrown straight into a pig pen. I don't even have pigs yet. When I finally pay attention, he promises me a mansion in half a month. Too slow. 10 days, still too slow. I need shelter today. So I do what any sensible noble would do. I take off my coat, roll up my sleeves, and grab a log 4 slaves couldn't carry. I shoulder it and start building. Moore nearly faints. My lord, you can't do manual labor, he screams like I am committing a war crime. Then he sobs, will you send me to the pigs? Look him dead in the eyes. All depends on my sleep tonight. His face wrinkles up like a sad eggplant. Grabs a log and starts helping, probably for the first time in his cozy life. And floating in my vision, construction experience was level 1. 1 out of 100. Everything else is at 0. Time to grind life skills again. At least dying from overwork fits me perfectly. That's how the system works. Feel things, get experience. Let's see if our guy actually survives this absolute madness. Come along with me on this adventure, building houses, planting crops, or chopping trees for experience. And leveling up a skill earns you crystals. 500 crystals just for reaching level 2. It is great because summoning an apostle costs 160. But daily logins only give 100, as I worked all day just to get 10 construction experience out of the 100 needed. So at this rate, leveling up will take ages. But the beautiful part is that every experience point downloads construction knowledge directly into my brain. By the end of the day, I was working like someone with months of experience, one single man doing the work of 10. The slaves were seriously confused about their place in the social hierarchy. I managed to build 5 wooden cabins before nightfall. They ugly though, absolutely hideous. Log walls, slanted straw roofs. They block the wind, but if it rains, we are getting showered in our beds. Any ordinary noble would rather sleep in a ditch. Built this with my own hands, and honestly, it is a masterpiece. Let me introduce you to my magnificent entourage. When I left home, my family gave me a starter pack. 1 butler, 2 secretaries, 1 chef, 3 assistants, and 5 slaves, 5 maids, plus horses and supplies. 20 people in total, including me. I'm a noble, this would be extremely generous. Son of a grand duke. It is basically a consolation prize. Butler is Scythe, nearly 40 years old, stiff as a board, and dressed so sharp you could cut yourself on his collar. He was my etiquette teacher and the only one who refused to carry logs today. Stood there watching us sweat and had the nerve to say, "Manual labor is far beneath your status. It violates noble protocol." Told him if protocol magically built mansions, I would gladly use it. He is the honorable gentleman type you can easily tease because he is too polite to fight back. He has real management skills, and that is exactly why I brought him. Nobody else wanted that uptight old man. Their loss. Knights, Aaron and Green, knighted yet, but both are tough fighters. Aaron is the reliable one, unloading carriages without even being asked. Great guy. Green, on the other hand, when I announced we were sleeping in my beautiful handmade shacks, stared like I suggested eating rocks for dinner. More desperately trying not to get executed, offered to let us spend the night in Skag Village. Hard pass, I said. Medieval villages are literally open sewers. Even dogs would live there. Green immediately said he wouldn't mind going. Stared at him go then and don't come back. The maniac gave a military salute and said, "Yes, sir," as if marching off to a glorious death. And yeah, I know what you're thinking, betrayed by his own knight. Poor Moore almost had a heart attack when Green told him to lead. Moore just stood there sweating, thinking it was one of those loyalty tests where 500 assassins jump from the bushes. I kicked Green before he took another step, turned around and gave me this dramatically wounded puppy look, as if saying, "You are going to suffer out here and won't let me escape." Look, Green grew up with me. Raised by my family, he is loyal to the bone. Him betraying me are lower than pulling a 6-star character on a single summon. The real issue is that I corrupted him. Grew up together and my bad influence made him like this. Technically, this is my fault. So I sent Moore off, telling him to return early tomorrow. He left feeling deeply conflicted about whether his new lord was a genius or a complete lunatic. The slaves also retired, completely shocked. Bet tonight in their quarters someone will say, "Do you know the new lord? Logs with him today." And absolutely nobody will believe him. Once everyone left, my chef cooked dinner, nothing fancy but edible, and we settled into our quarters. Me in one cabin, the knights crammed into another, and everyone else wherever they fit. Lay down on my wooden bed, air blowing through every crack, and spent the entire night exploring the game interface. Who needs sleep when there are menus to explore? Day 2 in paradise. My body woke up at dawn automatically due to the Crackscale family rule, rise before the sun to train with the knights. 15 years of that turns your internal clock into a tyrant that doesn't care how late you stayed up checking game menus. Aaron and Green were already outside, swinging their steel greatswords, those mixed with mountain copper that make the air whistle, so they didn't spar with each other, because there is nobody here who can repair damaged weapons. Back home we had a whole repair team. Here it is just me and my 5 ugly cabins. I didn't train. Instead I bent down and started pulling weeds like crazy. 1 experience point down, and trust me, you and I are just beginning to discover these 9 skills. Let's dive into this crazy world of skill leveling, construction, farming, and blacksmithing. Cannot level them all up at once, so priorities first. It is spring and farming here is a disaster. These fools barely harvest anything because their technique is just throwing seeds on dirt and praying for a miracle. I was pulling weeds while cursing so furiously that the servants avoided me, thinking I was about to go completely insane, only about their terrible farming. One time, more showed up with yesterday's slaves. Poor souls were shivering from the cold. Mornings in this valley feel like freezing winter, and they wear simple rags. Looking at them and then more, I made a decision that shattered feudal rules, ordering my chef Bob to cook oatmeal. 50 servings. Bob looked completely shocked. My lord, it will not fit. Well, just use multiple pots then. I didn't have to explain this. Suddenly, Scythe appeared like a critical ghost, claiming there was not enough grain for such generosity. Stared at Moore, who immediately offered to send over every last bit of the town's grain reserves. Problem solved. Scythe looked like he wanted to complain directly to the universe. Breaks every rule, he gasped. Pay attention here, I am the law, so I just patted his shoulder. Stared at the mud stain on his spotless clothes as if I had smeared dog poop on him. He went off grumbling because we had to use noble tableware to serve the oatmeal, lacking 50 common bowls, and if slaves ate from them, those dishes would be permanently contaminated, according to high society. Scythe is probably calculating if working for me will actually end up costing him money.
Honestly, it probably will.
I pulled Moore aside and gave him 3 tasks. First, bring me every record in town. Everything goes straight to Scythe right away. Easy. Task 1. Second, take my 2 scribes and finish a complete census of every single resident in Skagtown and nearby villages within 3 days. Moore went dead silent, a tense and sweaty silence. See, this chubby scammer has never actually counted the population. His only real job was keeping 50% of everything Skagtown produced and stealing as much as he wanted, sending fixed taxes to the Duke and pocketing the rest. Why would he want real numbers? True counts destroy illegal profits. Now I bet you can imagine his face when I smiled and told him he would end up eating black bread with pigs. Moore tried to force a smile, but it looked more like he had just stepped on a sharp nail. I could almost hear his thoughts. Not even any bread left in the pig pen. Gave him a pat and watched my chubby administrator mount his horse, galloping toward town as if his life depended on it, because it did. Brought seeds with me when I left home, a massive pile of them. Unlike other nobles who think mud is just something to wipe off boots, I have farmed in secret before. Not perfectly, but I know how to use a hoe. First order of business. Sent the slaves to construct a bathhouse and a proper kitchen. Will not let them use my estate as an open toilet. Manners, people. Manners. By the way, those slaves absolutely adore me right now. Served them hot oatmeal this morning, and they looked at me like I was handing out pure gold bars. Their internal rating system works like this. 1 extra bite of food equals a merciful lord. 2 bites make you a great merciful lord. And an entire bowl of hot oatmeal makes you a legendary lord fallen from heaven. I'm basically their god now, and it only costs some oats. Next, I grabbed the hoe and started tilling alone. Just me against an acre of land all morning. No breaks. Planting experience point 1. My 16-year-old body is strong from my high-protein noble diet, so I have plenty of strength. Experience points kept downloading farming knowledge right into my brain, covering soil preparation and drainage systems, how to break hard dirt scientific methods that nobody in this filthy medieval dump ever uses for farming. These people just toss seeds and pray. Their crop output is pathetic. Less than 100 pounds per acre. It physically hurts to watch. I planted parsnips, which are technically spring vegetables, basically like a radish. In spring, harvest in summer, step by step. During lunch, Green finally spoke up. So when are we going to Skagtown to do actual lordly stuff? The town is not going anywhere. What is the rush? Even Aaron, my silent stoic knight, could not hold back. So when they trained their whole lives for combat, they followed me here expecting glory, but ended up watching me farm. What would you do in their shoes? All right, you and I are about to watch these two completely lose their minds when I drop some news. But first, I gave them a task before we move on to bigger plans, prompting a blank-faced Green to ask about farming. Gave him a smug smile, mocking him by saying Aaron could handle it if he was not good enough. Green looked absolutely baffled that I was treating his farming skills like some kind of high-stakes competitive sport. Aaron's mouth twitched as he fought back a smirk before returning to his usual stony face. Growth in silence then surprised the world. Moore brought over the Skagtown records, which I threw right at Scythe to avoid another boring lecture on etiquette. 2 days flew by. 5 acres were plowed and planted with vegetables, leaving my body aching terribly by nightfall. Even with my enhanced physique, swinging a hoe for 12 hours straight completely wrecks your back. But Young recovers fast, raising my farming level to 59 out of 100. Then Moore showed up looking like a dead man walking. Ordered him to read the census aloud, stating the population was around 1,800 to 1,900 people. Really, because they only paid taxes for 700 citizens. Moore turned as pale as a ghost. Now, pay attention here, because we just discovered that his late father never even bothered to count the population. Moore took over and did the exact same thing, keeping the old flat tax while the real population secretly tripled. For decades, no one from the Crackscale family checked on this town because my 80-year-old father forgot this place even existed. On paper, it is a massive tax fraud that could get heads rolling, but honestly, I really do not care. Even if Moore pocketed the extra coins for years with such terrible productivity, what could he have actually stolen? Maybe enough to buy a few basic sets of armor. The guy is just a rookie trying to scam people. Punishing him is useless since I need workers, so I let it go. Moore practically melted in absolute relief. But why is there a gap of 100 people? I want exact numbers, even counting unborn babies if necessary. Moore looked deeply uncomfortable and hesitated, but under my patient stare, he finally revealed the shocking truth. Let's pause here because we just discovered that Skagtown actually started as a refuge for runaway slaves and dangerous outlaws. Completely hidden medieval village, as if someone went and built a town using only people from wanted posters. My old man raided it decades ago with 3 knights, planted his flag, left a tax collector behind, and never returned. The catch: runaways never stopped coming, though most were simple farmers. Some are actual dangerous outlaws, bandits, and military deserters, and skilled mountain hunters who kill with crude homemade weapons. Moore's 30 leather-armored guards simply do not stand a single chance. Leaving them alone is the official policy, and Moore strongly warned me not to mess with them. I made a mental note of it, sent them away, and went right back to tilling my land. The population breakdown was fascinating, showing a classic pyramid. Almost no elderly exist because no one survives past 40. Plenty of adults and kids, proving this basin is safe and provides enough food to raise families. The population boomed in secret for decades, while the Crackscale family completely forgot about this entire region. Humans are honestly like weeds. Give us enough food and safety, and we multiply at an absolutely crazy rate. After 6 more days of hard labor, I cleared 10 acres, finally unlocking level 2 farming and flooding my mind with massive knowledge. We are talking manure composting, seed selection, deep plowing, and even building a curved moldboard plow. Still agricultural technology centuries ahead of their time. My head spun, forcing me to sit down. And unlocked. Clearing the first soil gave me 500 crystals, adding up to 1,200 total with daily rewards. 160 crystals per summon, that is 7 pulls. Wait 4 days for a 10 pull, but there is no pity system or rate up banner here. Just a grey pool with about 2,000 floating stars. No guarantees whatsoever. You know what? Let us pull dirt all week and deserve this. First roll. The pool ripples, a star shoots up like a comet, and blue light explodes to reveal a 3-star card. The artwork clears and I nearly fall over. It is green. Running Knight is staring back at me from a gacha card, head tilted with that annoying smug grin. A 3-star rarity assassin class with pretty average stats and some D+ rankings. Mostly rank E-level stats, but his skills are focused entirely on dodge and speed. Makes sense, he never liked standard fights. Heroes do not just drop from heaven. Stick around for the next video to see who else we recruit. Come along with me, this makes way more sense than trusting a stranger. Let us summon 2 purple lights this time. 4 stars, and it is Aaron, of course, standing there in full armor, looking like a poster boy for chivalrous virtue. 4-star tank with better overall stats, shield skills and defense, and a talent for resisting status effects. Classic Aaron. Comparing their cards, he is clearly stronger. 2 East, against Green's 2Ds and 3 East. Always seemed matched in training, meaning Aaron was holding back. A humble cheater. 3rd pull, white light. 2 stars. Just some unknown guy with a rough face wearing animal skins. Hunter vibes, E-rank stats for Dota, and a sharp vision talent. Skill, basically a walking medieval trail cam. Next to my 2 knights, his stats are total garbage. Not everyone grows up on noble protein shakes and daily combat training since childhood. But wait, if these apostles are actual people near me, where are they? I asked this guy named Dota. And a guy named Dota. But he is not standing here in front of me waving. Without understanding anything, I wasted my other 4 attempts. 4th roll, Scythe, my strict butler. 5th pull, Bob, my chef, 1 star. 6th pull, Synthelma, 1 star. 7th, some guy named Borrow. Just 1 single star after another with flat E-rank stats. We'll give you 3 decent free rolls and then slam the door. Classic gacha game pain. So out of 7 apostles, 4 already work for me. Wasted resources recruiting people I already had. It is like paying full price for the shoes you are already wearing. Not even know Dota, Thelma, or Borrow. They are out there being apostles without even knowing it. I opened the management menu and immediately wanted to cry. Upgrading apostles requires experience books made of rare magical materials. Skill books are exactly the same story. Forging signature weapons, materials, class changes, impossible requirements. The only thing that works for free is the relationship meter. My boys Aaron and Green are already at 70 or 80% because we grew up together. Rangers are at 10%. It requires mithril, mountain copper, and magic gems. I know what they are. Nobles use them to upgrade knight gear. Come from my inheritance. But my total fortune is just 20 gold coins and shiny rocks. Excellent. Show you how the power system works here. Ranked from level 1 to 9. Last famous level 9 was the Conqueror Emperor 100 years ago. Built a fleet to find a mythical spot in the Ocean of Death, fought a disease, got attacked by sea monsters, and never returned. What an inspiring career. Honestly, though, individual power is highly overrated anyway. Sure, Aaron Green and I, 3 level 1 transcendents, could wipe out all 2,000 people in Skagtown. We would only stop from exhaustion. 2,000 farmers against 3 knights is like sheep facing tigers. Swap those sheep for 50 wolves that will not run. Suddenly, those tigers are in deep trouble against a real army. Even a level 9 divine warrior would have to negotiate, not lie. Not buffing a single man. It is about turning sheep into wolves. And humans in this world have incredible physical potential. There is no magic barrier between normal and transcendent. Boom, level 1. A boxing champion from my old world would qualify as transcendent here. Punch strength of D-. So my real project is not leveling up individual apostles. It is building an army of wolves. Got it. Right. Anyway, on the 7th day I decided to visit Skagtown. When I announced it, Green's eyes lit up with joy. He spent a whole week watching me tend to farmland and was absolutely desperate to do literally anything else. Ran to his room to gear up and found Aaron waiting outside in full mithril reinforced armor, glowing like a living chandelier with his helmet and sword. A knight must always be prepared. Aaron said, "Liar. You just put that on." Green shouted. We left at noon. 2 armored knights, Scythe and me on tall horses, hooves clacking on the road. Already gathered the whole town, and weathered, frightened faces stared at me. With slumped shoulders and shifting nervous eyes, not completely broken yet, still a tiny spark. Decades without a noble breathing down their necks did this. They're not happy, just terrified. Trust me, you need to see what happens next, please. Just leave things as they are. You'll pay 50% taxes, not make it worse. Please go away. Look. If I said nothing changes, you'd build me an altar. Come along with me to see how far this lord actually plans to go. His predictable cruelty feels safer than a mysterious lord who builds cabins and pulls weeds at the crack of dawn. They have absolutely no idea what is coming for them. Time for me to put on my noble tyrant mask. I rode into the plaza on my massive horse with the sun behind me, casting my face in shadow with peak dramatic flair. I am Roman Crackscale, your lord and ruler. Here belongs to me. The land, the rivers, the fish, and even the birds above your heads are mine. And that squirrel you are looking at is mine. And by the way, you have all been breaking the law for decades. Hunting in my mountains, fishing in my rivers, and cutting down my trees, all of this without my permission. Everyone owes me 1 gold coin as punishment. 1 gold coin. These poor people have barely ever seen copper coins. You would think I was asking for their kidneys. In 2 seconds, the crowd went from dead silence to absolute chaos. weeping, begging, and crawling. One brave man tried to charge at me, and bam! Aaron and Green drew their massive swords at the same time, which must have looked terrifying from below. Two armored giants on war horses, swords pointed to the sky, and emotionless faces, living statues of absolute combat. The attacker practically teleported back. Mention here, because you and I are about to see he is not actually crazy. Before leaving, I negotiated a 3-year tax exemption with my father. Years of zero accountability to use as leverage. Nobody up top will care. Looking for a gold coin is the oldest negotiation trick in the book. Demand the impossible first, then offer a reasonable alternative. You have 2 options, I announced. Either pay the fine or obey me. What a tough choice. Right after that, I dropped my second bombshell, and every child between 5 and 15 years old to my estate. After the previous bombshell, they barely even felt this one. They were too shocked to even process it. Then I summoned the merchants. Skagtown actually has a tiny trading economy. River connects them to the outside world, though the Silver Dragon Canyon route frightens most merchants away. 2 daring merchants who actually made the trip had never paid a single tax. Naturally, a young merchant stepped forward, tan, elegant, and very clearly a foreigner. My lord, you are right. We all steal from your mountain. Why hunt us down when the real bandits are out in the hills? Bold move, kid. Was Maury Pereira, son of a highly famous merchant named Sillon, probably another illegitimate son. I know what you're thinking, but trust me, this kid will be super useful later on. We'll deal with everyone, I said, cold as ice. Small-time thieves and massive bandit groups alike. No one uses my resources for free. And then came the real bombshell. Farming stops today. Abandon your fields. Anyone touching a plow without my permission will die. Tomorrow, everything starts from scratch. A new system. Will follow my every order without hesitation. Honestly, your current farming methods are absolute trash. You are wasting fertile land with prehistoric techniques. Letting you keep farming while I organize would just ruin more soil. It is far better to restart everything at once. Boomed like a war drum and roared my final declaration. I claim all land and resources. Your old lifestyle is over. I will redistribute everything. There will be no freedom to do as you please. Pulled the reins and rode away without looking back, leaving behind an atmosphere of peak drama. Moore was dripping in sweat. Could feel him thinking, oh yes, this is the noble behavior I expected. Terrifying, unreasonable, and completely unhinged. But even Moore had never seen a lord who did not just squeeze his people dry. He had never seen one destroy the entire garden just to replant it from scratch. Will the town ever go back to how it was? No! And that is the point. On our return, Green pulled off his helmet, staring. I thought you would keep feeding them oatmeal and playing the good guy forever. Exploitation. Learned that word from me. Only proud to use it whenever he can. And then he added, good thing you played the tyrant. Do not exploit peasants, we get no white bread. Without that, I cannot maintain this grand physique. Priorities. And what if you really can never eat white bread again? Green's face completely froze. Even Aaron spun around to look. Known me since childhood. They know this starts something massive after 16 years of waiting. And trust me, you and I won't want to miss what comes next. You are the boss. We are your knights, so we cannot refuse. But stick with me to see what crazy stunt he pulls next. It's casual, but it is honestly the most fiercely loyal declaration you will ever hear from this fool. He and Aaron chose to follow me for one simple reason. They want to be part of something legendary. He made me smile, but Scythe immediately ruined the moment. 300 kids from their families will cause massive trouble. Did the math. Kids aged 5 to 15 make up a huge chunk of the population, and the older ones are free labor. They work the fields and watch their younger siblings come away, and every single household falls apart. It won't work because they are babysitting, leaving fields completely abandoned. Honestly, his concerns are extremely valid. I'm not revealing my full hand yet. Bottom line, I need to mold these kids early and get them used to my estate. Building loyalty and shaping a generation that thinks differently. It is a long-term play. I am going to tear down their entire way of life. I straight up told Scythe that feudal agriculture is a complete joke. Centralize all resources under my direct control and redistribute them. Zero tolerance for waste. Sith face said it all. You have lost your mind, he seemed to say. I'm cutting farming land. Adapt or die. Expression shifted like I had lost my mind and my soul. Nobody in this medieval dumpster fire understands basic math. Right now, 1 seed yields 4, 1-to-4 ratio. That is why families need 60 acres just to avoid starvation. They toss seeds around, pray for good weather, and accept wind-cutting harvests in half or rain ruining everything. Merchants saw these terrible profit margins, they would hang themselves on the spot. 300% return breeds crime, but agricultural losses cause suicides. Limit goal is 1 to 20. 1 seed planted, 20 harvested. If I hit 1 to 8, I have the land. Hit 1 to 16, it is just a quarter. Seed selection, composting, and deep plowing, all thanks to the knowledge my level 2 planting skill granted me. Hitting 1 to 20 is actually conservative. In crops to their genetic limits, the harvests will speak for themselves. Fewer farmed fields frees up labor. That lets me put people to work on construction, mining, and building infrastructure. Game says I have a lot to work with. What a lie. The town only has about 80 oxen for plowing. All belong to Moore and his tiny administration squad. But now, I have officially confiscated every single one. 80 oxen for 2,000 people is pathetic. They would never plow in time, so they just threw seeds onto unworked dirt. They were literally farming on autopilot and prayers. That ends today. I'm cutting loose all the dead weight. Useless fields that produce zero crop to concentrate everything onto smaller, fully optimized plots with actual technique. Today, I secured a 3-year tax exemption from my father before leaving. Years of absolute freedom, zero questions asked. The plan is simple. Terrify them into submission starting today. Revolutionize their farming tomorrow, freeing up enough labor to build an actual civilization. I know what you are thinking, but there is no time for gentle reforms or winning hearts. That would take decades. No time. War is coming. The world is shifting, and I refuse to be planting seeds when the storm hits. Fast, brutal, and highly efficient. The knot instead of untying it. Behind me, Moore is probably sweating bullets, wondering if Skagtown will ever go back to normal. Won't, but what's next is way better. Assuming I don't totally mess up the crop ratios and accidentally starve everyone to death. Not think about that. Once back at the manor, I remembered something crucial. It lets me assign code names to my apostles. Looked at Green and Aaron and offered them nicknames. Green's eyes practically popped out. A titled knight, my lord. In this world, only legendary warriors of level 5 or higher with epic feats earn official titles, like Duke cracked scale after piercing a dragon's armor. An incredibly big deal. Green puffed his chest, bragging that earning a title would be easy for him eventually, though he admitted he was still just a bit short of that tier. He held up his fingers, showing a gap of barely a centimeter. Nope, I clarified it is just a regular alias, not a power upgrade. His face completely fell, and he asked if his codename could be Green. Stared at him blankly, and he stared back with pure confusion. So I just told him to get the hell out. Walked off scratching his head, utterly clueless as to why I would waste my time asking him such an obvious question. Wreck, I didn't even bother asking Aaron. Just opened up the Apostle management menu and typed the names myself. Meanwhile, back in Skagtown, my speech exploded like a bomb, and you and I know this is only the beginning. Come along with me to see how the village farmers rushed like desperate castaways trying to save themselves. Let's go. Is he turning us into slaves? Why are we harvesting during planting season? What will he eat if we do not plant? Poor Moore turned red with rage and exploded, telling everyone to shut up, nobody to the nobility, and if he could influence the Lord, he would do more than cancel absurd orders. He would have the Lord execute them all just to stop dealing with those filthy, starving peasants. And he stormed right through the crowd. Wow, what a master of self-control this guy turned out to be. The peasants stared in absolute terror. Technically, I broke imperial law by confiscating every single piece of their farmland. Leases grant them full farming rights. King could punish me, but he is hundreds of kilometers away and clueless about this town. Even my own father barely remembers this region. Really, who is going to stop me? They spent all afternoon debating my plans, deducing I would not enslave them since I need them to keep farming for food. The general consensus was that this was just a display of power, and if they acted submissive, would eventually throw them a crumb. They are not entirely wrong, but they are not ready for the surprise waiting ahead. Watch closely, because here is where it gets really good. That young merchant, Maury Pereira, the handsome tanned guy, returned to his ship. Turns out, trading was just a clever cover story. Waiting in the cabin was a woman wearing a black hooded robe, showing only her red lips and a pale chin. Talk about mysterious drama. Her name was Shasta, and she was not happy. Did you find her? She asked coldly. No, Maury replied, holding up a purple crystal. Your information might be wrong. The locals only talk about the new lord, not find out anything else. Useless. she growled. Mori sighed in frustration and summarized my entire speech for her. When he mentioned my demand to bring all the children to my mansion, Shasta did not react the way you would expect. He knew nobles had twisted hobbies, but they usually hide them. This guy doing it openly with kids is an absolute atrocity. Mori blinked in shock, asking if he was a monster. What else would a man want with hundreds of kids around? So now a random stranger on a ship thinks I am a medieval creep. Fantastic. A truly spectacular start to my reputation. To be fair, Mori defended me slightly. I didn't spend 7 days planting turnips. Impeccable logic. Thank you, merchant, for believing in my innocence based purely on my deep, profound love for farming. Mori's actual theory was way more interesting. Guessed I might be training young recruits to become future knights. Still, he had absolutely no clue why I confiscated all the agricultural land, or how this tiny mountain valley could ever fund such a massive military effort. Staring at the towering hills surrounding Skagtown, he wondered if this madman would try blasting a road through solid rock. My friends, nobody has any idea what I am planning, and I bet you will never guess it either. Only ones who know the plan are me and that pixel farmer living rent-free inside my own head. While I slept peacefully after a day of revolutionary farming, a ghost was stalking my town. But I did not know yet. I will tell you what I found out later. That young merchant was actually smuggling a real witch on his ship. Her name is Shasta, and she wears a dark robe straight out of some mysterious fantasy fairy tale. She is desperately searching for another witch named Gwyneth, who apparently escaped deep into the hills around our town. In this world, the church ruthlessly hunts witches to burn them alive, complete with full medieval drama. Mori's family secretly helps them, a dangerous underground operation that would get his entire bloodline executed if they are caught. She smuggled herself aboard because her reports claimed a young witch was hiding out in this exact territory. Mori spent 3 days scanning with a magic tracking crystal and detected absolutely nothing. He believed the girl fled straight into the massive mountains after the locals spotted her. Then they started bickering like an old married couple. Shasta insisted on searching for her personally, no matter what. Mori flatly refused, terrified of getting caught. I'm useless, and he shot back, calling her reckless, conjured a thick smoke screen to block his path, and vanished. Mori kicked a rock and immediately regretted it. The very night, Shasta unleashed absolute terror upon the unsuspecting village, and turned into a spectral mist, slip inside homes, and force sleeping villagers to confess their secrets. She went house to house whispering for clues, and believe me, our wild mystery is only just beginning. Hey, come with me and watch this. While everyone else gossiped, an old farmer muttered a name in his sleep. Gwyneth Shasta pushed harder, turning his dream into pure terror. She is not my daughter, she is a witch. Please, church lords, do not burn us. That was all Shasta needed. This guy is actually Gwyneth's father, and he is so terrified of the church that even in his dreams, he rejects his own daughter. But he genuinely did not know where she was. Dead end. Shasta was about to leave when he noticed a woman sleeping nearby. Most likely Gwyneth's mother, sharing a single room with 4 other children, ranging from infants to 10 years old. The mother was just faking sleep. He immediately got up to wake her husband, but failed. Magic had put him into a deep slumber. Do not bother, he won't wake up, Shasta whispered from right behind her. The mother spun around and saw a cloud of dark smoke with glowing red eyes staring back. She screamed, "Do not hurt my kids." The smoke drifted closer. Where is Gwyneth? And right there, the scene suddenly cuts away. Meanwhile, an awake farmer saw the smoke creature floating between the houses. He nearly died of fright, convinced a demon from hell was devouring souls. Long story short, I am just trying to build a farming utopia. Look at the absolute mess we got ourselves into. Witch hunt in my backyard, and a smoke witch terrorizing my people without me knowing. There is a lost girl in my mountains. The church wants her dead, and some merchant is having a nervous breakdown on his boat. And here I am, lying in bed, peacefully dreaming about crop rotation. Honestly, being a feudal lord is great. You miss out on all the fun. I was spending a beautiful morning, just admiring my perfectly plowed fields. Rows so straight they would make a geometry teacher cry when Moore came galloping in, screaming like he was being skinned alive. my lord, demons. Demons in Skagtown last night. I just sighed. Can a man not enjoy his own land in peace? Hearing the details, a smoke creature floating around, and people unable to wake up, I called Green and Aaron to plan something fast. It took us about 30 seconds to figure it out. No ordinary witch magic could sustain something like that for so long. As you guys already know, only a powerful witch could pull off something that terrifying for so long. Let me explain the mess between witches and the church in this world. Kings, nobles, and the church. The church worships multiple gods and commands terrifying military power, holy knights, witch hunters, and inquisitors. On top of that, they charge everyone a 10% tax called a tithe. Imagine the tax office, but with swords and divine righteousness. In the Black Iron Kingdom, where our 3 grand dukes, including my dear father, told the church to go to hell with their tithe. If the church army ever steps out of their holy territory, the 3 dukes will unite to crush them instantly. The king technically pays the tithe. The dukes, who control 40% of the army, do not. Now think about it, the church can do nothing, and Skagtown has 0 holy presence. No chapels, priests, or tax collectors. If there were a church here, I would deal with it quietly. The mountains are high, the emperor is far away. Who would even find out? How about witches? Every woman has a tiny chance of awakening magical powers. The church, witches, and mages are just walking disasters, filthy trash that must be purged. Hunter knights have spent centuries burning every witch they find. And not just her. They purify her family too, because supposedly, witch blood infects all of her relatives. When I was 10, I saw the church burn a witch alive on our territory. It did not stop them from executing her on his lands. I went to watch out of pure curiosity. I saw the fire and the black smoke rising like a demon's grin, a helpless woman tied to the stake, her neck stretched out and her face covered in soot, drowned out by the crackling flames. Everything turned to ash. Something broke inside me when I was 10. I never forgot it. Anyway, back to breakfast. I told everyone at the table that it was not a demon, just a passing witch. More sat down. Do not have fancy dining rules. Green and Aaron were already stuffing their faces. Little Snob refused to sit and insisted on standing by my side, waiting for my leftovers, like a second-class citizen. Nobody asked him to. He chooses to suffer. Moore asked carefully, notify the church. My lord, they pay 10 gold coins for reporting a witch, and buy 20 oxen. Literally see the money signs in his eyes. This man would sell his grandmother for 20 cows. Stared and asked, why would I do that? She is only passing through. Moore's internal monologue was almost visible on his face. Passing through. This is the most remote corner of the entire kingdom. Nobody passes through here unless they are heading to nowhere. But out loud, he said, yes, you are absolutely right, my lord. Clever little pig. What comes next for us will be completely wild. Come along with me as Moore swears only 2 people saw that smoke creature. Nobody got hurt, and those witnesses are keeping their mouths shut. Get it then, I told him, which was clearly searching for someone in the town of Skag. Not my problem. I don't have a purple crystal to hunt witches. I don't have time, and honestly, I don't care. As long as she doesn't burn my fields or scare my future workers, she can float around as smoke all she wants. After breakfast, I headed to Skag with my entire crew, Green, Aaron, Scythe, and the rest. Had a revolution to start, and no ghostly mist woman was going to delay my plans. People were waiting, staring like terrified puppies. Great, my tyrant act from yesterday worked like a charm. Submissive, obedient, and absolutely terrified. Just what I needed. No speeches today, it's time for hard work. First order, spring wheat. That's the local tradition here in Skag, so we'll keep it. Nothing else is changing. The old junk is gone. Get planting 15 or 20 pounds per acre. My new minimum is 30 pounds. This wheat demands dense planting or the yield is pathetic. In my old world, they'd plant 50 pounds to harvest 1,000. Obviously, we won't hit those numbers here, but we can easily crush these clueless medieval amateurs. Step 1. Seed selection. The method uses salt water to float the useless bad seeds. The big issue. Salt is a massive luxury here. They barely season food, so filling a whole pond with brine is impossible. Improvised with muddy water. Same density principle you mix in clay until the bad seeds float. The downside. Continuous stirring is required. I set up a barrel, calculated the mix, and made 2 farmers take turns stirring. More crept up to ask why we were stirring mud. Don't ask questions. Don't deserve to know. You're all just farming tools. And tools don't need to understand why they're being used. Sure, it sounds cruel, but Am I really going to give a buoyancy science lecture to medieval peasants who think thunder is God sneezing? No way, let them see results first. Explanations can wait. For now, pay attention to this insane agricultural plan that almost melted my brain. Last year's cultivated area exceeded 10,000 acres. I was stunned, but looking closely, I almost lost my mind. Most of the fields were scattered plots completely separated by forests, swamps, hills, and pastures. Half of them weren't even plowed properly, just threw seeds on the dirt and called it farming. They call that farmland. Don't insult the soil. Those are just forest patches with delusions of grandeur. And it gets worse. As the soil loses nutrients after one harvest, they rotate, constantly planting one year, abandoning it for years, then returning later. They cultivated 30 to 40,000 acres total. That's exactly why they built those satellite villages. The area is so massive that walking to your field takes half a day. Condense everything into 2,000 acres, rectangle of 1.3 kilometers by 1 kilometer, 1 acre per person. That is all. To make 2,000 acres produce what 10,000 couldn't, I need fertilizer. Lots of it. So I issued a very lordly command. Everyone, go gather manure, every single bit you can find. From humans, animals, rotten straw, dry grass, river mud, anything that decays. Pile it all up. We are making compost. Natural decomposition takes 2 weeks. No planting until it's ready. Expect 20 to 30 days of preparation before sowing. Entire morning organizing this. Then I called more over to drop the real bombshell. Find 80 women to cook. Everyone, including the slaves, is going to receive a daily lunch. Half a pound of dry rations, 3 thick slices of bread, oatmeal, vegetable soup, and plenty of clean boiled water. I know what you're thinking is a lord eating commoner food. And Moore's reaction, absolutely priceless, was short-circuiting. Where's this food coming from? The same as commoners? What should I eat instead? Are you planning a revolution? I wanted to object, but my glare silenced him completely. Here's the dirty secret: Skag has food. Moore has spent years selling surplus grain to buy cattle and line his pockets. Where do you think 80 oxen came from? That took massive grain embezzlement. I know it, and he knows I know. Neither of us says a word. His past theft is forgiven, but that secret stockpile is now our emergency food budget. Time to make Moore slim down, like it or not. I've done the math. 1,200 able adults, excluding kids under 15 and the elderly. Everyone eats lunch together without going home. Families will bring babies and elders, and cooks will watch them. And I are just getting started. All right, you and I are diving into Skagtown 2.0, where work, food, and childcare are totally centralized. It is the farming commune nobody asked for, but everyone gets. Led 300 kids to Origin Farm like a shepherd with the world's most confused flock. They are my long-term investment. We'll learn, work on the farm, and if they misbehave, we will use a very simple teaching philosophy. A solid hit until they understand. I am not cruel, just highly efficient. Now about my 2 scribes, German and Hans, educated city men hired at high wages. I paid them 1.2 gold coins a year, 50% over market rate, with 3 years in advance and 10-year contracts. To put it simply, a knight with 1,000 acres barely makes 10 to 20 gold coins a year before expenses, and can hardly repair his gear. These guys have a dream deal, reading and writing to those 300 peasant kids. It looked like I was asking them to eat dirt. German spoke first, saying he did not follow me to the edge of the world just to teach. He wanted a judicial post or to manage the estate, something fancy with a title, not babysitting mud-covered kids. Hans backed him up. Grandfather was a great lord's lawmaker, and he had massive ambitions of his own. Before coming, I promised them a land of abundance. Instead, they have only done boring censuses, and now I am reducing them to daycare workers. So are you going to disobey my orders? My voice turned absolutely icy. Watch closely as Hans, finding courage in his scrawny body, claimed they had the right to reject unreasonable orders. Even threatened to take this to the royal court, claiming the king's judicial authority was supreme. But as my eyes turned terrifying, his voice instantly dropped from a confident shout to a tiny mouse squeak. "You above market rate," I whispered. "Do not talk to me about your rights. Your salary buys my authority to command you." Dead silence. They felt the heavy calm before the storm. They died in this place. Nobody would find out for years. Nobody would search for them. Nobody would care. "You signed a contract, so serve your lord." They nodded in terror. "Do not overestimate your importance, and never test my patience. And never question me again, or I will execute you." I walked past them and left. That was not a joke. They felt the pure bloodlust in my words. Being peasant kids seems like a waste of pricey employees. But these fools cannot see past their ego. I'm not building a farm. I'm building a civilization. Civilizations need educated people. 300 children studying today will be 300 capable administrators, engineers, and officers in 5 years. German and Hans simply cannot see the massive chessboard that I am playing on. Back in Skagtown, the manure collectors returned for lunch. Yes, I had them gathering dung all morning, and you and I can easily guess exactly how bad they smelled while waiting in line. I know it sounds disgusting, but that dining hall literally had the atmosphere of a public restroom. I walked right through them without flinching. We'll be dealing with that massive pile of manure myself later. Smell is just the appetizer. Mo organized everything beautifully, seizing tables, chairs, and kitchen utensils from every single house in town. Man is an organizational genius when his life is on the line. Farmers parted like the sea as I walked past, terrified, confused, and anxious. Not assigned them new lands yet, not set taxes, nor had I told them when they could start planting. It is peak planting season, and their lord has them collecting dung instead. They are dying of fear inside, but too terrified to speak, and the lunch I served them. 1/2 pound of dry rations with thick slices of bread, oatmeal with vegetable soup, enough food to feed their entire family for a whole day. The deep suspicion in their eyes. Is this the last supper? Will we be executed tomorrow? Beautiful paranoid idiots. Them well so they work harder. Go ahead. Enjoy your existential dread with your oatmeal. It adds flavor. Gathered about 10 tons of manure this morning. More is coming. I need at least 100 tons of cow, horse, pig, and human waste. Do not discriminate against any waste. 20 to 30 pounds of manure every single day. Multiply that by 80 oxen. Add every animal and person in town. Mix in some rotten straw and river mud. Ferment for at least 2 weeks. And that, guys, is how a lord builds an empire. One pile of dung at a time. I inspected lunch. Actually, it is not bad. Bean rations, dark brown bread, thick oatmeal, and clean boiled water. Scythe prepared the exact same meal for me because I am serious. I eat what they eat. And that is where we leave it today. Gulp down this awful black bread without chewing, because if you taste it, you regret it. You and I are about to witness the worst 2 hours of my entire existence, straight into a giant pile of manure. The stench hit us like a brick wall. Moore went totally pale. I turned green, and liquid manure flooded the entire place. My stomach was turning, ready to throw up my lunch, but I gritted my teeth, grabbed my tools, and jumped right into the mud. 2 hours later, I built a perfectly layered compost pile, compacted and sealed with wet mud to guarantee high internal fermentation. In 2 weeks, this will decompose into real fertilizer without the awful stench. Crawling out, I had dirt splattered on my clothes, pants, and my very soul. My eyes were completely bloodshot, and my face went from green to a deep purple. Ran to the nearest water to scrub my skin raw. I sniffed my arm, nothing worked. It was marinated. That stench was not leaving anytime soon. And by Manure, the lord of marination, ordered more to make sure every future pile followed my exact method. Any farmer who does this tough job will receive 2 extra pounds of wheat as a bonus. Moore tried to protest, saying the peasants were already used to the smell. Seeing my angry purple face, he wisely swallowed his words like a smart man. Let's leave that smell behind and watch what comes next. I went to inspect the livestock pens and agricultural tools. Then I called for Lax, the local blacksmith of Skagtown. Curly hair, massive beard, chest hair spilling out of his shirt, and arms of steel. He has the ultimate blacksmith physique. These artisans enjoy high status because they are actually useful, unlike 90% of the population. I asked him about our tools. Most of them came from merchants, so he only did repairs. His entire iron reserve was just 200 pounds, worth more than 8 oxen. He was visibly shaking, terrified I was going to confiscate it. Instead, I knelt down and drew a blueprint in the dirt, a heavy-wheeled plow. Lax's eyes practically popped when he saw it would need over 30 pounds of iron. He would also need the wheel maker, and promised to pay a completely fair price for the work. He tried to decline the payment, but then hesitated and dropped this absolute gem, my lord. The church says everything is a gift from God. We must keep things as they are. Changing them is walking straight to hell. The church's technological oppression reached even here, the most remote corner of the entire kingdom. It is wild how religion slows down progress. Wouldn't you be just as frustrated with a church that calls innovation a sin and progress into a sin? Stood up, looked Lax dead in the eye, and told him, well, tell their god to come say it to my face, stared at me like I had slapped him with a holy book, dragged him to his workshop, and ordered him to start immediately, and the wheelmaker next. But as I walked away, something just did not add up. Old Plow's design made zero sense. This soil is wet and clay heavy, and my level 2 farming knowledge confirmed it. The current light plows only scrape the surface, making shallow cuts that barely loosen the topsoil. For this soil, you need a heavy plow that digs deep, turns the earth, and breaks up that tough clay. It is basic agricultural logic. But the weird part is that someone in this world's history was actually smart enough to invent an iron plow. They had the metallurgy and the concept, yet they built a light plow meant for heavy clay soils. That is like inventing a paper umbrella. If this land were dry and sandy, a light plow would actually make sense. It isn't. Natural conditions should have forced them to build a heavy plow. A light plow does not fit. It feels like an imported invention copy pasted onto the wrong continent. Someone had the brains to create iron tools. Why on earth would they build the wrong type? Unless someone was intentionally holding back this continent's agricultural growth. I looked at that pathetic plow once more. That thing shouldn't be here. Completely breaks the logic of how civilizations develop tools for their environment. Something is deeply wrong with the history of this world. That is a mystery for another day. For now, I have a plow to build and 90 tons of manure to collect. Priorities. Right. Followed Lax to his smithy to plan the plow. Time for a quick economic lesson on this world. 1 gold coin buys 30 to 50 pounds of iron. My inheritance is barely 20-something coins. Iron is basically medieval gold. Almost all of it goes to the military, then nobles and merchants. Peasants only get leftover crumbs, basically nothing. Lax showed me his reserve 200 pounds of cheap iron. The low-grade stuff at 51 pounds per coin. It is full of impurities, but works for simple tools. I need 40 heavy plows. That is a quick calculation for a blacksmith. But trust me, you and I are about to watch history change forever. Every light plow, my lord. Stick with me. This is where the madness starts. About 80 at 9 to 10 pounds each is 900 gross pounds. After smelting, maybe 60% is left. Barely 540 usable pounds. It is not enough. For a brief, dark moment, I actually considered melting Green's greatsword. But he would definitely notice. Then Lax mentioned that merchant ships at the dock were selling iron. The river with my crew. Maury saw us coming and his soul literally left his body. Witch friend, and came to arrest him. Almost see his gears turning. Get on his knees and blame the witch. Plan B. Throw money at the problem. Plan C, deny everything and pray. In the end, he acted completely normal, pretending to be totally confused until he realized I just wanted iron. Relief almost knocked him over. Nervous gesture he always does. What is with people sweating around me? Am I that scary? Do not answer that. Maury had 450 pounds of iron. High quality stuff, 30 per gold coin. Total 15 coins. Almost all the money I had left. Thought about it for 2 seconds and pay attention here. I pulled out a gorgeous thumbnail-sized ruby, birth gift from the Duke. A magic gem that strengthens the wielder, helping ordinary people transcend their limits. These gems are almost never sold. Broke nobles would sell their land, horses, and dignity before parting with their heirloom gems. Family relics meant to train the next knight. Maury like it was a piece of candy. A ruby that strengthens the weak. Worth about 15 coins. Maury caught it, his pupils instantly shrinking. But he did something unexpected. He stood up straight, got very formal, and handed the ruby back. Honorable Lord, your finances are tight. But I do not doubt your leadership. This territory has massive potential. Please let me donate these 450 pounds of iron as an investment. I cannot accept this gem. When he stepped closer to return the ruby, he smelled something strange. His nose instantly twitched. He glanced at the blacksmith and carpenter behind me, assuming it was them. Then he got closer and realized, no, that stench was coming directly from me, from my skin, my very soul. I'd spent 2 hours dealing with a massive pile of manure earlier. No bath could erase the evidence. I know what you are thinking, and yeah, Maury totally noticed. He was about to trust his fortune to a lord who smelled like a latrine. Make a huge mistake. Nobles wear perfume, smell like organic fertilizer. It is called commitment to agriculture. You just would not understand. I took my ruby back. Sure, I am sentimental since I owned it since birth, but I was willing to trade it. Sentimentality does not manufacture plows. Luckily, Maury decided to gift me those 450 pounds of iron. Smart man. I told him clearly, I do not accept charity. I will pay you back another way. Without charity or faith, favors, nobody will control me. Investments, I will gladly accept those, especially when I am completely broke. I'm 2 years tax-free in Skagtown, then casually drop that I need 100 oxen and 100 horses before spring ends. Maury almost died right there. Maybe he could get 50 oxen from Count Khan's territory, 100 miles away through rapids and rock. 100 was impossible in time, but draft horses, he could get those. Still done, 50 oxen and 100 draft horses. Basically all my money plus a fortune I do not even have yet. Do I care? No, you do not build empires by being cheap. Maury watched me play with that ruby like it was a grape and decided to bet on this crazy lord. Something was eating him up inside. Surely it is related to the witch, a matter I pretend not to notice. He is already on my radar, not as a threat but as an interesting piece. Brought 150 pounds of iron to Lax and Vicky. I'm holding their box tightly. With this new batch and the melted plows, we barely have enough iron for 40 heavy plows. Lax and Vicky worked all night. The massive breakthrough capable of boosting an entire civilization. Well-used invention changes everything. Farmers collected the manure, composting was on schedule, and Moore was in control of everything. In 2 more days, all the fertilizer processing would be finished. 9 days in Skagtown, 7 improving my agricultural skill, 2 reorganizing everything. Redesigned plows and fertilizer are ready. Trust me, you and I will soon find out what is bothering him. Let's go explore those mountains together and find out what that witch was actually searching for. The lord of this land I have to investigate. Tomorrow I hunt. On day 9 I woke up before dawn, opened my Hutzinel's chest and pulled out my bow. Oh, let me tell you about this weapon. Its body is carved from bloodwood, a supernatural material drenched in dragon blood that radiates pure raw courage. Literally, even a coward would charge screaming into battle holding this. The thing is made from mystically cured sea monster tendons. You could slash at it with a sword, but it won't cut on the first try. Both tips hold pigeon egg-sized diamonds. They aren't for show, they enchant every arrow with insane armor-piercing power. Drawing it requires a draw weight of 150 to 200 pounds, lifting a man with one arm. Penetrating power matches a heavy sniper rifle, though with slightly less accuracy and range. Basically a magical anti-tank weapon shaped like a bow. Replica of the legendary dragon piercer, worth hundreds of gold coins. Every noble in the kingdom would kill for it, but pawning it is out. If my father saw our family heirloom in a shop, he'd skin me alive. I wasn't even supposed to have this, but before leaving, the old duke called me to the vault and ordered me to take it. Then he gave me our family motto, forge a path through the thorns. That grumpy old man who always forgot my birthday. In the end, I guess he didn't completely ignore me. On this 9th day, our real journey is about to begin. Threw on my hunting gear, slung the bow over my shoulder, and checked the mirror. Not bad, looking like a fresh lion. Rugged adventurer who knows farming. Green and Aaron swapped their heavy armor for lighter gear. Still, I made Aaron pack an iron shield just in case. Then I mounted Skag and ordered the guards to assemble. We are heading to the mountains. Moore completely lost it, complaining that I should have warned him first. Like that would stop me. His face showed pain, defeat, and something I can only call deep, begrudging affection. This man has never loved and hated someone as much as he loves and hates me right now. Those people are dangerous, he begged. So what? Should I let dangerous thugs roam my land doing whatever they want? Moore looked ready to cry, die, or quit. I know what you're thinking, but watch this. Despite my wild stunts this week, Moore accepted everything silently. An agricultural revolution.
Sure, okay,
Mountains of fertilizer.
fine. Giving noble food to slaves.
Why not? But this is where he drew the line. Those peaks genuinely terrify him. So naturally I forced him to tag along, so solid staring into space. His soul literally left his defeated body. 20 out of 30 guards, leaving 10 behind to secure the area. Farming production runs itself now. The supervisors can easily manage everything for an entire day. I asked if they had mountain experience. Turns out, locals used to gather wood in these forests before I arrived. Me a great excuse to accuse them of stealing my precious resources. Major side quest. Game's Breath of Life mode displays my original farm, but the rest is blank. I must physically go explore it. Once I do, the system will map out timber zones, quarries, ore veins, hunting grounds, marshes, and rivers. The resource radar. Wherever I walk, if a mine is nearby, the system automatically registers it. Doesn't mean I have satellite surveillance or can bend reality with the game. It just tracks data, and only on land I personally cultivated. Since thousands of acres don't count because I haven't touched them. This game is incredibly strict about ownership. It makes the hike worth it. I need iron deposits, and searching blind would take months without this radar. I just need to get close. While we climb, let me give you some historical context about this world. About 130 years ago, the Conqueror Emperor decreed that anyone colonizing the wilds would own them. Many years of massive expansion followed. Then, the Conqueror sailed into the Dark Sea, fell ill, and a massive storm wrecked his entire fleet. He never returned. Without his iron fist, nobles immediately invaded, seizing the lands that settlers spent 20 years developing. Defenseless settlers simply couldn't resist. 3 Grand Dukes stepped in to stabilize everything, but the damage was done. Stick with me to see what happens next. Alright, get ready, because after that event, nobody explored anymore. Civilizations stopped expanding, only fighting over what was left. Skagtown is the obvious result of that stagnation, slowly growing from just 200 people to nearly 2,000, scattered over miles for decades. Pathetically inefficient. But that is what happens when an entire continent collectively decides that exploring is only for fools. As we walked, Moore panted like a dying walrus. The man weighs almost 200 pounds, making this extreme training for him. Please, my lord, he gasped out. There are killers in these hills. Your safety is what matters most. Do not have to risk yourself. Something on this mountain killed 24 guards and 2 knights, I replied calmly. It can kill me too. No big deal. Moore started sweating twice as much. Think he is losing weight in real time. Tell me about the mountain people, I demanded. He admitted he knew very little. Some have lived here since before his father died, and he inherited the post. Dangerous beasts, treacherous terrain, and in the middle of all that, fugitives and outlaws, people so strong that nobody sane would seek them. Which is exactly why we are going. A mental map unfolded with every step. Somewhere out here were mineral veins, runaway outlaws, and maybe a lost young witch. Pay attention here, because it is time to discover what secrets this basin hides in my very own backyard. We had not even reached the hunter's camp when I felt it. That sixth sense warning you a bow is aimed at your head. And in archery, when a bow points at you, your body just knows. And felt it too. Strange rustling in the bushes. Someone was trying to flank us from behind. He raised his shield and took up a defensive stance on my left. Gaze of green sharpened as he drew his sword, standing back to back with me in a triangle formation. The guards stood frozen with their slow reflexes. Seeing 2 elite knights ready to fight, the guards finally reacted and realized they should probably start panicking too. Want to make an enemy of your own lord? I shouted out. A voice answered from the branches. We have no lord. This was it. Bowstrings pulled tight all around us. How amusing. I did not even bother to draw my own weapon. Stood there empty-handed, radiating the vibe of someone who simply did not care about being shot. Want to fight against knights. You cannot win. Come out, Neil, and I will forgive everything. Silence followed, then whispers. A heated argument was happening in the brush. One wanted to surrender, the other did not. Finally, a young hunter stepped out to bargain. We just want to be left alone. We will give you our prey if you do not bother us. Mid-sentence, because I stared at him with total disbelief. You and I both know this feeling. Instantly recognized his face from a gacha card. Doda, my 2-star summon with rank E stats, expert tracking, and sharp vision. Standing right in front of me, real as the dirt. Trying to bargain for freedom with the guy who literally owns his soul in a mobile game. Just swear loyalty to me, I said. His brain completely short-circuited. On this land, I have the right to claim absolutely everything. Everyone here is my vassal. State your name. The Gurney. I found him. 3 pulls. 3 real people confirmed. The game is not random. Summons real humans who are already in my territory. That is incredibly good to know. Fun fact, after recruiting my first apostles, the game unlocked battle simulation modes, dispatch combat, warbands, and even expeditions. Completely useless for now since I have 7 apostles and 0 actual army. It is great knowing those features await me once I stop farming fertilizer and start conquering. Me to the others in these mountains. Ordered Doda. I will decide who deserves to serve me based on their behavior. Meanwhile, in a side plot I knew nothing about, The witch Shasta followed Gwyneth's mother's directions deep into the dark forest. She carried a bag of peas. Gwyneth's family secretly left food by a crooked chestnut tree near the stream, drop-off point for their exiled daughter. Shasta hung the bag of peas on the tree and waited. An entire day passed with nothing. In the freezing mountain cold, though her magic protected her from freezing. On the second day, a tiny ragged figure approached the tree. A thin young girl wearing torn clothes, standing on her tiptoes to grab the bag and stuffing the peas into her folded shirt. She looked panicked and quickly fled. Shasta followed her to a makeshift shelter of broken branches and leaves, far too difficult for a young child to build alone. Someone must have helped her before. This little girl had been living alone in the forest for over a year. She was probably 12 or 13. Surviving on hidden food and whatever the woods offered. Shasta stepped out to meet her. Gwyneth the girl gasped, dropping her peas. And that is where we leave it, with her terrified face hearing, "I am Shasta. Come along as we unravel this." "We are the same. Do not fear," Shasta said, revealing dark smoke. "You are a witch." Gwyneth screamed, backing away as if Shasta were a monster instead of her savior. "You are one too." "No, I am not," the girl cried. "I do not have evil powers, nor am I possessed by demons. Go away," the little girl said before turning to run. Shasta caught her, tightly hugging the terrified child. "Everything will be fine. We'll eat bread every day and sleep in a real bed. No more rain or cold. No one will burn you. You were not born on this earth just to suffer and experience pain, not wake up just to die." Meanwhile, downhill, I was happily mapping out game resources and threatening hunters to submit, completely unaware that a rescue mission and an emotional family reunion were happening just a few kilometers right above my head. Mountain and absolutely zero coordination. Classic Skag Town. Those hunters folded instantly. 15 warriors, but I brought 20 guards and 2 high-tier knights. Not even need to fight. I just had to remind them of one simple fact. Control all of Skagtown. Need the town. Without access to Skagtown, they get no grains, clothes, or iron tools. Their comfortable mountain lifestyle, which is far better than the farmers below, relies entirely on trading with my settlement. Checkmate without drawing a single weapon. 1 month to move to Skagtown. They were not happy, but it was not a request. New 2-star apostle who swore loyalty, tell me everything about the most wanted residents in the area. First, Dr. Garland, a mysterious healer who is highly respected. Nobody knows where he came from. The deserter who fled the battlefield with absolutely nowhere else to go. Now pay attention here. He ended up here a classic fugitive. Third, we have Dick, the traitor knight. Killed the noble he served, so the entire aristocracy wants him dead. Ended up in these mountains. Extremely dangerous. Fourth and most interesting, Borg the Great Bandit. This guy is a total legend. He murdered a noble, stole his wealth, and distributed it like a crazy medieval Robin Hood. Very heartwarming ending, right? When Borg left, another lord showed up and hanged every single peasant who had received that stolen cash. Wonderful. What a beautiful story. He warned me to stay far away from Borg because he is incredibly lethal. Suddenly, a beast roared on the mountain, making everyone tense. The super powerful magical predators that hunters actively avoid. Their territories and rarely cause trouble, but when they do, the casualties are devastating. I pressed Dota. Someone is missing, right? Hesitated, but I gave him my most intimidating lordly glare until he confessed. The last one is the Witch of Doom, Gwyneth. So there really is a witch hiding in my mountains. Mystery solved. Is who Shasta wanted. Fitz, now watch closely, because you and I need to see what happens next. And it does not look good for me. Bandit Borg visited the traitor knight, Dick, in his mountain cabin. "A dragon has entered the mountain," Borg announced. And he meant me, how cute. Complaining to Dick, "This dragon will come for us. The weak hunters will submit. To me, Jet, the doctor, and the little witch. No one will be safe. We'll sell the witch girl to the church. Are you just going to watch them burn a child?" Dick, with the patience of a saint, asked what he wanted. His answer, "Kill the dragon before he destroys our paradise." Your madness is getting worse, Borg. Dick made it clear. Borg has heartbreaking nightmares every single night. Dreams of the peasants who died because of his generosity, and even believes he strangled his own mother, completely broken, and his solution for everything is murdering the nearest noble and handing their riches to the poor, ignoring that this exact plan already got an entire village executed. Dick flat out refused to help him, pointed out that if they killed me, my father, the Grand Duke, would wipe Skagtown off the map in revenge. Borg, with wild, crazy eyes, insisted, "I will kill Roman Crackscale and that fat bastard more. We'll give their grain and gold to the poor, divide the land, and everyone will follow me to hunt more dragons. Kill all the dragons. Without nobles, everything will be perfect. Dick refused, and Borg grew cold as he waited. Dick gripped his rusty sword in silence, not to fight, but just to hold onto something, and Borg walked out. Dick was left alone, staring at a tarnished silver necklace with a sigh. Meanwhile, I am busy building plows, manure, and teaching kids math, while a psychotic Robin Hood plots my murder using magical beasts. The only warrior who could stop him decided it is not his problem, and a traumatized little witch hides eating peas while I am clueless. The mess you and I just got into. Join me as we watch this noble mess with his gacha while thinking, wow, this mountain is packed with iron. Being a lord is awesome. You are always the last to know if someone wants you dead. Shasta was having the saddest therapy session ever with little Gwyneth up on the mountain. Not know, since I was busy doing my own thing recruiting weirdos. Dota first took me to this filthy doctor's cabin. And trust me, that nickname fits this guy Garland absolutely perfectly. Beard that probably used to be white, but now looked like a brown, walking biohazard. His entire body looked like it had not touched water since the last century, but his cabin was packed with jars, crushed herbs, bugs floating in alcohol, and a crucible. Still medieval pharmacy. Then I spotted something interesting on his shelf. A medallion of faith, the design of the 33 divine seats, detailed lines connecting 33 sacred points. Made by the church. You are from the church, right? I asked without hesitating. Dota's jaw completely dropped. He had known Garland his entire life and never noticed a single thing. Moore was sweating so much I feared he would dehydrate. In his head he was screaming, a witch and a church agent. What else is my village hiding? Dragon under the bakery. Garland did not even flinch. Pay close attention here. The old man stared at me with sharp eyes while I checked his stuff like I owned it, which I actually do. His way of organizing instruments was typical of the church, the only institution with a real medical education system. Their medical knowledge far surpasses anyone else's, and they even have supernatural healing powers thanks to divine arts. Though, honestly, their non-magical medicine is brutal. Some of their treatments end up being way worse than the actual diseases. But in this world, where simply not killing the patient makes you a great doctor, Garland is a certified genius. Did you leave the church? I asked if he wanted to work for me. The doctrine demands serving the gods for life. He answered in a raspy voice. So there is no resigning. He kept quiet. Is this considered military desertion then? Silence. I did not abandon my faith. I just left the institution. Now that is a highly fascinating theological stance. Believing in deities but rejecting their only authorized franchise down here. It is like loving pizza but refusing to step into a pizzeria. I know what you're thinking. And my philosophy on religion is actually pretty simple. If the gods are real, powerful, and look after their followers, why is this world still an absolute misery? Why do they not help? Why are people starving while the church collects tithes? They exist but lack the power to change the world. Then why should I even fear them? Gods exist but do not care about believers. I could burn every church to the ground without blinking. And if they do not exist, well, the church is just a giant scam with swords. No matter how you look at it, I owe them zero respect. Gave their gods a chance to impress me, and they failed. So if I strike, they better not cross my path. I was ready to recruit Garland with my usual mix of threats and job offers when a horrifying scream echoed through the entire forest. It was not human nor quite a beast. It sounded like a slaughtered pig mixed with the lament of the earth itself. Everyone froze. In the woods, something awful was happening, and based on the timeline I later built, this was happening right near where Shasta found little Gwyneth. To mention all of this was going down at the exact same time. Apparently that crazy bandit Borg decided to launch his master plan today, lure a magical beast to me and fake a tragic hunting accident. Only problem was, the monster did not target me. It went straight for the witches instead. Let us map out my mountain hike. I have a secret church doctor, an apostle hunter, and a sweaty heavy guy, 3 nervous guards, 2 armed knights, and a crazy bandit plotting my assassination, undercover deserter, a traitorous knight who cannot decide, and 2 witches about to be mauled by a magical beast. And I am just standing here thinking, boy, that screech sounded pretty close. I should probably go check it out. Welcome to the worst school field trip of the feudal era. Birds fled the forest as if someone threw firecrackers inside the coop. That dying screech cut off instantly, like someone pulled the plug on a speaker mid-song. Suddenly, the whole mountain erupted with roars and howls echoing everywhere. Moore was shaking like a human earthquake. Sweat was visibly pouring down his face. Lord, please, let us leave right now, I beg of you. Asked Green about the sound. A magical mountain boar killed instantly, something that even left Green completely shocked. And trust me, whatever killed it so easily must be an absolute monster. Let's see what we find. You and I will see how one lethal strike decided everything. Moore was shaking, but who cares who killed him? It could have been the traitorous knight or the deserter. Suddenly, my guard outside screamed in terror, a beast. A massive shadow is coming. Everything turned into absolute chaos, with guards and hunters tripping over themselves in pure panic. Rushed out of Garland's cabin and screamed with everything I had in my lungs. Defensive line came up for about 2 seconds. Just enough time to see a 3-meter grizzly bear charging at a ridiculous speed. With 30 meters in 4 or 5 seconds. It was an unstoppable furry freight train thirsty for blood and death. Defensive line. I roared again. The guards tried to lock their shields into something decent, but it did absolutely nothing. The bear smashed through them like a bowling ball hitting wet paper. 4 or 5 guards were sent flying. They were not even prepared. Panic when a 1-ton bear charges at you. Your body just collapses. Total chaos. Aaron charged straight ahead with his shield, aimed it into the beast's head, planted his foot firmly on a rock, and with every muscle aching, stopped the bear completely. Face turned bright red. His entire body was shaking, but he held. And Green appeared, moving fast from behind. The massive mountain copper greatsword flew through the air, sinking into its neck. Been fatal, but the bear jerked away. Could not drive the blade all the way in, penetrating only 10 centimeters before slipping. A deep wound, but not lethal. The bear went wild. The move I chose to make next. My legendary cracked scale bow, a priceless family heirloom like a bat straight to its face. A heavy blow left it dazed. Its head shook, loosening its teeth. Ancestors used this bow to hunt dragons, and here I was using it to bash a skull. First Duke must be rolling in his grave. The hunters scattered and readied their short bows, but they did not fire. Too much risk of friendly fire with me right in the middle of this chaos. Get it away from here, I shouted, backing off, and rolled to the side, escaping the danger. And Green, who is absolutely insane, leaped right onto the beast's back and drove his sword straight into its spine. Buried it over 20 centimeters deep, flipped and pulled it out as he landed. The roaring bear chased after them. Perfect, clear line of fire. Hunters shot, but their stone-tipped arrows barely scratched its thick, heavy coat. Mere tickles. I drew back the powerful bloodwood bow with diamond-tipped arrows, wielding 200 pounds of raw tension. I pulled back to the absolute limit, aimed and released. It was beautiful, a fierce whistle slicing through mountain air. The arrow pierced the bear's hide, vanishing completely inside it. 80 centimeters of wood and metal disappeared like a pin in a cushion. The bear stumbled, howling in pure agony. Another arrow and another and another. 5 hits in total. You and I both know those shots sank completely. My right arm went completely numb, so I finally lowered the bow. The beast was still alive, crawling around in sheer agony, snatching an iron spear from a guard, Aaron Green, and I finished it off from a distance, targeting the throat and brain. Over I stood, panting heavily over the massive carcass. This creature was a literal gold mine. Bear's gall and heart are worth a fortune. They strengthen humans and cure illnesses, delicacies reserved only for nobility. And Dota knelt to inspect the body and turned pale, saying, "My lord, it reeks of beast frenzy herb. That herb is like methamphetamine for animals, driving predators into a state of blind, murderous rage. It is an extremely rare herb, and nobody could feed it to a magic beast without getting eaten first." Dota connected the dots instantly. Only one man in these mountains had the skill and the sheer madness to drug a magic beast against a specific target. Borg, the bandit leader. Lunatic tried to assassinate me using a bear as his weapon. Dota explained it all. How Borg completely lost his mind, viewing nobles as evil dragons that he absolutely had to exterminate. How he fantasized about killing me to distribute my wealth to the poor. Then I stared deeply into the thick forest. Somewhere in those woods that madman was watching, disappointed that his bear did not finish the job. "Not a single one escapes," I whispered. My arm was still tingling from pulling the bow. The bear's blood was already pooling at my feet. In my mind, the system was probably trying to award me hunting experience points. But I was not thinking about that now. I was only focused on how to hunt down a madman. Splitting my forces, Aaron took a squad to the west. Green and Dota followed the tracks while I went deep. And I are in for a legendary hunt. Dota proved to be an incredible team, tracking broken branches in the woods. Read the ground like a book. Someone ran through here panicking and looking back. Borg's tracking skills were absolute trash. Madman was running wild, rambling about how unfair the dragons were. Green, being his usual curious self, questioned Dota. So can you beat this legendary bandit? Dota gave him a serious look. What about you? Green only smirked. Third Borg was level 3 or 4 back in his prime, and that was 20 years before I was born. So I gave him a 20-year head start to be worthy of facing me. Let's hope he used it. But his eye twitched. This guy's confidence is basically a disease, but Green was no fool. I didn't take him alone, but he knows this mountain. That's where you come in. Keep me from falling into his trap. Sounds fair. They ventured into the thick forest. Meanwhile, Borg wandered around like a broken toy, muttering that he had to kill the dragon. Kill all dragons. The dragon dies, everything will be fine. Didn't even work. He was getting wilder and more dangerous. Attention here, because this is where I get into some serious trouble. Aaron located the witches first, standing before Shasta and little Gwyneth, the lost witch everyone wanted. He delivered the Lord's orders with absolute gravity. Nobody leaves. Looked like Shasta just killed an 800-pound magical deer with short swords and magic. Wasn't about to let anyone block her. Get lost, she growled. You can't stop me. What are you, level 1 or 2? I haven't even peaked yet. I've slaughtered level 5 knights. Aaron, completely unfazed, responded that she was strong, but she wouldn't defy his lord's orders. He enforced the law, emerged from the bushes as hunters drew their arrows. The threat was crystal clear. She was totally surrounded. Shasta crossed her blood-stained short swords over her chest. Black smoke rolled off the blades like a nightmare. Want to test my steel? And right at that moment she felt it. Cold shiver of terror, realizing someone was watching. She glanced up through the dense forest canopy. She saw a tall, powerful figure drawing a massive bow. A diamond-tipped arrow was aimed right at her head in the light. That was me. Want to test my arrow? I'm not going to pretend I knew everything back then. I only knew Aaron had tracked down 2 strangers. One of them radiated an intense bloodlust that made the air feel like metal, threatening my knight with smoky blades. In that terrifying warrior, I spotted a little girl crying and shaking. Beneath, the destiny witch Dota mentioned, the exact one Shasta was searching for. Suddenly it all clicked. The night witch in Skagtown, Maury's panic, the mountain search. You see how everything connects now. Explanations could wait. I was aiming my 200-pound bow at a woman claiming to have slaughtered level 5 warriors. My knight was literally one bad move away from a bloodbath. And behind me, some crazy bandit was trying to summon drugged-up beasts. Shasta locked eyes with me, and I stared right back. Forest fell dead silent, save for Gwyneth's quiet sobbing and the distant angry roars echoing from the mountains. No one moved. Another casual Tuesday in Skagtown. Lowered my bow, but definitely not out of kindness. Pulling that thing requires over 100 pounds of force. Try negotiating while holding up a whole refrigerator with one arm. A witch sneaking into my territory to kidnap my people. You must want to die. Shasta immediately shot back. This girl is a witch too. Don't care if she's a witch, a fairy, or a talking horse. Everything here belongs to me. And you think you can just steal what's mine? Really? Shasta scoffed. Wow, you'd actually take a witch as your subject, invite the entire witch forest for a visit. Are you threatening me? You started with the jokes, Roman answered. Let me and my sister go, or I'll have the witch forest destroy this town. But here's the thing. I didn't believe her empty threat for even a single second. The witch forest is just a secret society fleeing the church. They spend their lives hiding from inquisitors like cockroaches, scattering when you turn on the lights. They actually mobilized armies for every lost member. They'd have been hunted down and wiped out decades ago. They'd never risk everything for one kid and a loudmouth with smoky swords. Let me explain why I wanted this girl so badly. Meeting Dota in person and confirming that my apostles come from my own territory made everything finally click together. The summoning system recruits straight from my own people. The more stars a character has, the rarer and more talented they are. Aaron is 4 stars. Green is 3. Stick with me to find out this little girl's rank. Alright, you and I are diving into a wild story where average 2-star hunters suddenly face an incredibly rare hyper witch. A random little girl undergoing a spontaneous supernatural awakening is literally like winning the genetic lottery. Gwyneth is definitely a high-tier apostle, probably the absolute strongest in my entire territory, even surpassing a powerhouse like Aaron. I think she is taking my 6-star prize. She will have to go over my dead body. Everything stays in-house. In the end, I will get her card. Zero right to negotiate with me, I warned Shasta. The witch forest has no power here either. Forbid taking anyone from Skagtown. My people are staying right here. It is not negotiable. Dark smoke began rising from Shasta. You think being a lord makes you stronger than a knight? You are so sure you can kill us. Why haven't you done it? Everyone would just assume wild beasts ate us. She hesitated. I was right. There was no way she could slaughter all of us without a single witness escaping. When one person got away and reported a witch killed the Crackscale heir, the church wouldn't be their only enemy. Nobles would unite. Two biggest forces on the continent who hate each other would ally to destroy their forest. Game over. He knew it. I knew it and watched closely here because the tension was about to redline, but she was still struggling internally. Hands tightly gripped those smoke-shrouded short swords, carefully calculating her options. Could she grab Gwyneth and escape before Aaron stopped her? Would she be faster than my arrows in the deep woods? Aaron stepped right in front of me, raising his shield. Flawless defensive stance, my ultimate human wall. Meanwhile, Shasta was imagining the worst-case scenarios of what a corrupt noble would do to the kid. Saw me as a monster. To her, leaving Gwyneth in my care meant condemning the poor little girl to suffer through absolutely unspeakable horrors. Lady, I just want to add her to my team, my gacha collection. This is about stats and stars. I'm no villain, just a gamer. Couldn't exactly explain that to her, could I? Hunters and guards could feel the suffocating tension in the air. Some hunters were already doubting their newfound loyalty. They just swore an oath, and now they have to fight a legendary witch. Don't even have salt, which serves as anti-witch ammo in this world, and costs a literal fortune nobody can afford. The standoff dragged on. Neither of us even blinked. Then, echoing from the mountain, a wolf's howl rang out, immediately followed by dozens more. Shasta and I turned pale at the exact same time, because in the woods some psycho was screaming to slaughter everyone. That maniac Borg was still running free, sending a massive pack of mutated magic beasts straight toward us. Absolutely brilliant. I know what you're thinking, stuck with a smoke witch, protecting a kid, and hunted by wolves in the wild woods. Now a wolf pack is coming. Days in Skagtown are just insane. One lone wolf, fine. A magic wolf. But a whole pack of magic wolves 2 meters long and 200 pounds. To panic. Shasta tried to bolt with Gwyneth. I stepped out from Aaron's shield and went full ruthless villain mode leave. And I kill her. Yes, I admit it. I'm not proud of it, but I did the math. If Shasta escapes with the kid using her smoke, she vanishes while my men end up as wolf food. I won't let my people die for her. No way. I warned her my target wasn't her, but the girl, and that all my hunters would do the exact same thing. Shasta shook with pure rage, but had to yield. Only 2 paths, I yelled. We all die here, or we fight together to survive. Make your choice. She chose to fight, commander mode, ordering my hunters to spread out and fire at will, shields up front forming a solid barrier, and guarding Gwyneth in the back, with orders to execute anyone attempting to run. Couldn't even finish my motivational speech before those wolves struck. They were smart, completely avoiding our shield wall. They flanked us, gliding through trees like grey ghosts. The that was impassable for humans was nothing but a playground to them. Reinforce the flanks, I roared, pulling my bowstring back. Aimed for the chest, but ended up hitting a back leg. The sheer power of my arrow was so ridiculous it tore the limb clean off, sending it rolling into a bush, howling in agony. And down. Biggest wolf was charging from the right. You have to give Shasta credit. She leaped into the air, wrapped her foot in black smoke, and delivered a brutal kick. Both crashed to the ground, but instantly bounced back, tearing into each other like 2 absolute meat grinders in a savage fury. Suddenly, one lunged right at me. I used my bow as a blunt weapon, striking the beast so hard it literally went flying. 10 kilograms of enchanted wood smashed straight into a skull will ruin anyone's day. Second wolf tackles me, biting my ribs, leaving us hanging over the abyss. You'll want to see what happens next. Stick with me, my hunting armor held up, and those fangs failed to pierce it. Looked at the wolf clinging to my chest, feeling nothing but cold annoyance, and swung my bow with sheer brute strength. A bowstring of sea monster tendon sliced the wolf's throat like a steel wire, skin, fur, and trachea completely shattered. Hot blood splattered across half my body. I let go of the still twitching corpse and scanned the entire battlefield. Things looked terrible. My guards were being slaughtered, with 5 or 6 already down. Every wolf had arrows sticking out of them, but none were fatal, only served to make them fight with savage rage. My men were pathetic, utterly useless. I cursed myself for sending Green and Dota away, right when I heard another howl. It sounded close from a different direction. The pack retreated. The alpha wolf had not even joined the battle yet. We were only fighting the second string. My blood ran cold. Aaron rushed toward me, ready to grab me and run. Suddenly, the alpha's howl turned into a painful shriek. Someone was attacking it. Green and Dota had arrived. Now look closely, the wolves began to flee, as a massive figure emerged from the woods swinging a great sword. He sliced the first escaping wolf in half with a single strike, caught up to the stumbling second, and ended him just as fast. Swordsmanship was lethal and highly experienced, decades of pure muscle memory in every single swing. Shasta killed 2 more. I blasted 2 of them with my bow like a caveman. It was all over in under 3 minutes, but felt like 3 hours. Panting, drenched in blood from the chest down and shaking with exhaustion. My guards were injured and traumatized, but alive. A mysterious swordsman walked toward us. He was clearly no amateur. His style was different, fueled by a much wilder power. Suddenly, little Gwyneth broke free from Aaron and ran over, screaming, "Uncle Dick!" I stared at him. Messy hair, days of stubble, a weathered face, and that tough vibe of someone who has seen and killed it all. Even though he looked like a wandering drifter, his mere presence radiated a commanding aura of battle experience. This was Dick, the traitor knight who murdered his own lord, and whom every noble has been hunting down ever since. And he had just saved my life. Plus, the little witch I was secretly protecting on the mountain called him her uncle. Trip has gotten me a tamed hunter, a rogue church doctor, a clash with a smoke witch, an assassination attempt by a drugged-up bear, a massive wolf battle, and a rather bizarre reputation, and now a dangerous fugitive who might be the strongest warrior I have ever seen. I should go outside more. Dick, thanks for saving us. I asked him to swear loyalty. Can you believe the crazy look he gave me when he heard that? I am Dick the traitor. I killed my own master. There is not a single place on this entire continent for me. I opened my arms and smiled, then let me be that place. Stared back, and I could practically read his mind. This kid covered in blood is smiling at me and offering a home. Does he not know I murder my employers? Is he suicidal? Is there a hidden army waiting behind the bushes? For a brief moment the man hesitated. Said he had never considered it, yet his eyes screamed that he accepted. 10 years on the run, sleeping on the cold ground, and suddenly someone offers him a real home. He wanted it desperately. Before making it official, another guy appeared through the trees carrying the severed head of the alpha wolf, like a simple bag of groceries. It was the deserter jet, a regular guy wearing leather armor so filthy it looked alive on its own, showing absolutely zero emotion or expression. He had taken down the alpha wolf entirely alone without a single scratch. Easily a level 2 transcendent, stronger than Aaron. "Hey Jet, great job. Want a job?" Dick gave me an incredibly outraged look. "You just say that to anyone." And yeah, buddy, I am recruiting. It is what I do. Someone strong and offer them a job. I'm basically the most aggressive human resources department in the world. Jet's answer was direct. "No." "Are you sure?" "Order them to kill you." Took a step back, then I would just flee elsewhere. Points for honesty. And Shasta intervened. "I helped you with those wolves. Now let Gwyneth come with me." Glanced at her sideways. When did I ever agree to that deal? She clenched her jaw. Did help. Without her holding off 2 wolves at once, my guards would have been cut in half. And you and I never actually made one. Then another guard arrived, panting and sweating after dragging his nearly 100-kilo body up the mountain to bring back reinforcements. Injured hunters. They had heard the wolves howling and came running over to help us out. For a coward afraid of everything, this took serious guts. He passed his test today. His face lit up seeing me alive. And that is where we leave it today. my friends with his smile freezing completely upon seeing that ragged girl behind Dick. Let's dive into this drama right when the officer finally recognizes Gwyneth. Recognized him instantly, fearing him far more than me, since she had grown up under his absolute authority. She hid right behind Dick, practically trying to vanish. Sighing, I suggested we decide who she goes with. She is coming with me, Shasta declared. Trust me, this is why negotiations never end peacefully. Mind race. Impossible with decimated troops. What do you think? Would they even back me up? All right, you and I are watching Shasta ready to run alone, leaving the girl's fate entirely to her own choice. Everyone stared at this terrified, dirty, starving 12-year-old girl who had somehow survived in the wild for 2 whole years. Watch closely. Gwyneth, do you want to come with me? Looked at Shasta, then at me, searching Dick and Jet's eyes. But they just looked away, leaving the choice to her. No safety net. Standing over wolf corpses, you and I can feel the tension as her future hangs in the balance. Let's watch her whole life flash by. Back then, I had no clue. All right, let's dive into the moment. Her powers awakened and everything collapsed, the walls shattered. Her father's legs broke, and the oxen went completely wild. She wept to her mother while her father screamed in absolute rage that she was cursed. On a freezing night, her mother embraced her one last time and hung a small bag of peas around her neck. It was 3 days of family rations, handed to the daughter they were losing as they pushed her into the dark. She spent 2 years alone in the mountains, eating rabbits that crashed into trees, wild berries, and suspicious mushrooms. She would have died that first winter if Dick hadn't given her a bearskin and Jed some meat. Garland treated her sickness. Borg taught her to survive, and other hunters generously shared their supplies with her. And her mother secretly brought food whenever she could. Freezing and alone every single day, she never once returned home. Her mother warned her not to come down. Now everyone asked her what she wanted. Gwyneth looked up as tears washed the soot from her dirty face. That broken, dirty face shine with hope as she says she wants to go home is heartbreaking. The clearing fell dead silent. Shasta collapsed and Dick closed his eyes. I know what you're thinking, I'm just a cold gotcha player. But a sudden pain gripped my chest. I only ever calculated her worth, her stars, and her strategic potential. Right then, she was just a little girl missing her mother. Gwyneth chose neither of us. She chose her home. And since Skagtown is on my land, the score is Roman 1, Smoke Lady 0. Shasta looked like she had swallowed a whole lemon sideways. Honestly, I can't blame her. She crossed mountains, froze in the wild, hunted magic deer, fought off wolves, and put up with me for nothing. She muttered she wouldn't have fought if I'd promised something earlier. Now watch closely, because I make a massive promise, a noble pact in the name of Crackscale. Gwyneth will never be hunted on my territory. The church hunts her. I won't hand her over. As long as she serves me faithfully, I'll protect her for life. No dishonor, no betrayal. Noble pact is a magical contract, and believe me, this is only the beginning. Let's pause and look at this. Breaking a pact means the king strips your title, land, power, and dignity. It's worse than death, because at least death preserves your honor. I'm dead serious, but let's be completely real here. Eventually get Gwyneth's apostle card. This is just basic employee benefits, and promise her a salary. Shasta was genuinely shocked. Noble, right? So I decided to push further. Want to work for me too? No way in hell. Everywhere for you. Could easily hide right here. Things are going to change, she snapped, but instantly shut her mouth as if she'd said too much. Red flag. Change how? She dodged the question by threatening Gwyneth. I ignored it outwardly, but make no mistake, I filed that detail away. Something massive is brewing in the witch world. My name is Shasta the Nightmare Witch, she announced with pure drama. I had absolutely no clue who she was, which is great because famous witches usually die. You need a hideout, find me, but be careful. I'm not ready to throw hands with the church yet. Stared at me as if I'd completely lost my mind, and that's where we leave it. Fighting the church definitely sounds like absolute madness from her perspective. For me, it's just item 47. Between building irrigation systems and conquering neighboring territories. Come with me as Aaron arrives with a devastating casualty report. One is permanently out of action. With so many wounded, my 20-man expedition was cut right in half. Those guards are terrible soldiers, but they are all I have. No use complaining while staring into the woods. Any news on Green? He was still hunting Borg somewhere out in the wild. Much later, we learned the tragic reason for his madness. Honestly, it is not funny. 50 years ago, Northern raiders attacked a coastal town called Reefstone. They occupied it for months, committing terrible atrocities. One young woman survived her family's slaughter, only to suffer the absolute worst. 10 months later, she gave birth to a boy. She named him Borg. Alone, traumatized, and barely a child herself, but somehow she raised him alone. She used every dirty trick and desperate measure just to keep them both alive in that place. Devoted herself completely to this child born of violence, loving him instead of hating him. When Borg turned 10, she died before reaching 25. Worked herself to death so her son could live, leaving him only the simple legacy of his own survival. Borg felt absolutely nothing. He was just a child who did not understand reality, simply kept moving forward. Fought, stole, survived, became a mercenary, and killed for coin. The usual routine in this cruel era. Now pay attention here. Over the years, memories of his mother suddenly flooded back to hit him hard. That fragile woman protecting him, and how she looked as she died dry, burnt out from the inside like firewood. The toughest mercenary in the whole company started crying in his sleep. His comrades mocked the giant weeping for his mother. Borg knew the truth. His axe had lost its edge. Inside him was broken forever. Quit. Tried farming and saw the exact same tragedy everywhere he looked. Exhausted mothers, starving families, and kids enslaved just because their parents could not pay taxes. Mother's fragile shadow was reflected in every single woman who suffered. One night he snapped, killed a viscount in his own castle, stole everything, and gave it to local farmers. Some farmers took the stolen goods straight to the next noble and turned him in immediately. Those who kept quiet ended up hanged, including a girl who reminded him of his mother. This is when his madness became permanent. He is not evil. He is broken. A man drowning in guilt, trying to save lives but only causing their deaths by accident. Now he has targeted his next dragon. He believes that if he kills enough nobles, everything will somehow be fine. It won't be. Never is. But try explaining that to a man whose mind shattered 40 years ago and never healed. Green was still tracking him through the woods. I hoped my foolish knight knew what he was doing. This was no ordinary hunt. It was an imminent mercy killing. Come out and fight me, a voice screamed. I know what you're thinking. And yeah, out of nowhere, Borg emerges like a total wild man from the forest. 20 years in the woods had erased any trace of civilization. Matted hair, a wasted body, and eyes burning with absolute madness. The main concern was not him, but Green. I want him to find you, so where on earth is he? Green crawled out of the bushes in shame, saying, "Here I am, my lord," repeatedly, but the old bandit always escaped. Seeing Borg heading toward me, he rushed back but arrived too late. Pure humiliation on his face was entirely real. It was the first time I had ever seen Green without his usual arrogance. I noticed Borg's weapon, a stone tied to a stick. This legendary bandit, this feared killer of nobles, the man who drugged a bear and sent wolves to kill me, was now challenging me with a primitive club. I almost laughed. I noticed Moore was pale and shaking violently. They had a history. "Why do you call me a dragon?" I asked calmly. Borg's answer was surprisingly poetic. "You have no claws but own vast lands. You have no wings but fly above everyone. You do not breathe fire, but the world trembles before you. Who resembles a dragon more than you?" Honestly, for about 3 seconds he almost convinced me. Dick whispered that Borg carried blood from the frozen north. That explained everything. Those Northmen worship warrior gods and believe in a hall where the glorious dead feast forever. Their lore is filled with dragon slayers. In Borg's mind, he was not just some starving madman holding a stone. He was a hero standing on his warship, ready to slay the ultimate beast. I tried to reason with him. You will only repeat history. You cannot save a drowning person by pulling from the shore. They will drag you down. I will use your corpse as a bridge. It's a wild standoff, don't you think? Come along with me. My mind was telling me to just let the knights tie him up. Problem solved. Thinking about that broken man, waving his stone axe at the sky and screaming at imaginary dragons, while his friends watched with pure pity. "I accept your duel," I told him. Everyone stared in shock as I took Aaron's shield and his glowing green sword. "On, Dragon Slayer!" Borg roared in fury. War horns echoed in his mind as he charged like a legendary warrior. Honestly, That man, starved and untrained for 20 years, still moved with the instincts of a true combat veteran, footwork that only comes from surviving real life or death battle. He read my attacks, dodged and countered with his wooden axe with absolutely unbelievable precision. I'm a transcendent, but watch closely. This starving lunatic forced me to fight for 10 minutes before failing. The vine snapped, sending the stone flying. In the end, he was just swinging a simple wooden stick against my heavy shield. In his mind, he was fighting a dragon under dark skies on a stormy sea, with his mother watching proudly from the deck. It was 3 days and nights of glorious battle. He leaped one last time with his remaining strength, striking my shield. Dick bounced away and Borg collapsed to the ground. I caught him before he fell. His body was freezing, his eyes clouded over, and I knew this was more than just exhaustion. Something deep inside him was fading. 20 years of madness, guilt, and starvation were finally taking their toll on his body. Gwyneth over and whispered what to say. Uncle Borg, Uncle Borg. He knelt down crying, holding his hand. Fingers twitched, gripping hers tightly as he whispered, asking if he killed the dragon. Little witch, who survived 2 years on the mountain thanks to what this man taught her, stared back at me. Nodded, she sobbed. You did it, Uncle Borg. He offered a faint smile, and then his face crumbled into tears. Mother, I am so sorry I killed you. Please forgive my cursed blood and my sins. You must have felt so much pain. Wept like a child. Not like a legendary warrior, but like a son who finally understood his mother's sacrifice 30 years too late. Not care about the Hall of Heroes anymore. And paradise held absolutely no warmth for him. Only craved the single warmth he ever knew. Those thin arms rocking him like a newborn, just as she did back then, stood there holding the borrowed sword, covered in blood and completely exhausted, watching a madman die in a young girl's arms on a forgotten mountain. I know we usually joke around, but I just can't not do it. Some things are not funny. Borg's fingers went still, the forest went quiet, and the birds fell silent. It was the dragon he fought, and who knows if he was even wrong. Borg died in Gwyneth's arms from pure exhaustion. A manhunt and a 10-minute duel with me were just too much for his broken body to handle. His heart stopped. I buried him properly with full honors, not in some ditch. Was he crazy? Absolutely. Seeing the sheer cruelty of this world, with the church burning kids alive, Borg was probably the sanest man on this continent. His methods were absolute chaos, and his logic was broken, but his rage was completely and utterly understandable. Ended up being the dragon he chose. After the burial, I offered Dick and Jet their jobs back. Both politely declined. No matter, they are on my territory, so sooner or later they will join me. Time is on my side. This mountain expedition was highly costly. We lost 3 of our guards. With many severely wounded, my forces were cut in half, but we hauled back thousands of pounds of wild game. Enough to give everyone in Skagtown 3 pounds of meat. Not bad for a day that almost killed me twice. Gained hunting experience, and my mind instantly downloaded brand new knowledge about butchery. Gave 10 pounds of meat to each hunter's family in thanks, ordering the rest distributed before it's spoiled. Then I brought Gwyneth home. Home, that was the exact word she used. Back to Skagtown and her family, to a life free from twig huts, wild peas, and daily prayers. Would handle the details later. For now that chapter was closed. Shasta left without saying goodbye. She returned to my ship. From the hill, I watched the merchant fleet sail north through canyon rapids until they vanished. Witches, merchants, the church. Thought long and hard about those words. On a board I was only just beginning to understand. I turned to look out over my lands. Everyone in this world is a fool. The nobles, the peasants, and the king and church are the ultimate fools. Those fools that everyone worships. You and I are going to watch me tear down this stupid system. Alright, grab a seat, because you and I are about to see how a simple mobile game and some farming change everything. I'm going to shatter this old world and rebuild it my way. New rules, new order. Will blood spill? Absolutely. Will nobles die? Hopefully plenty. Will kings kneel? They better. Will the church survive with their so-called divine authority? Not a chance. Era is shifting, and I am steering the ship. Though we would only realize this much later. Right after Shasta left, a massive giant eagle swooped down from the heavens, heading straight for Maury's ship. No ordinary bird, but a magical beast that shook the deck as it landed, and it spoke. Apparently, there was a whole witch hierarchy I knew nothing about. The magic mirror to track down newly awakened witches across the entire continent. The beast tamer witch who rides giant eagles. They wanted Gwyneth because her spiritual power was totally off the charts. Brace yourselves, because here comes the real kicker. These witches are planning something called Operation Death to God. Is right, the witch forest is done with hiding. They are launching a massive offensive against the church and any deity those people choose to worship. They believe training enough powerful witches will let them destroy the very divine energy that feeds the church. And it turns out a witch just awakened in the north with power so insane, the prophetess called her a living miracle. A single witch is heading north to find her first. But there is one major problem. The church felt it too. They dispatched Curtin, a level 6 Dawn Knight, along with 50 ruthless witch hunters, closely as this legendary warrior leads a death squad to beat the witches to the prize. Shasta climbed onto the giant eagle and flew straight to the north to join the frantic search. So, while I fertilize the soil and design new plows, the world's fate is decided up there between witches and gods. And yeah, I know what you are thinking. The sweet girl I swore to protect is actually ready to declare war on heaven. Unbelievable, right? Surely this will not mess up my farming schedule. Day 10, morning mist and breakfast at Origin Ranch. I sat down at the table with Erin Green and my newest acquisition, Gwyneth, now named my personal assistant, a fancy term for saying she follows me around everywhere and I feed her. She was a complete mess. Looked like a wild child discovering civilization. Just yesterday, Scythe's team had brought her into the settlement. They pressure washed her like a dirty car, gave her borrowed clothes and fed her oatmeal, jerky, and fresh bread. Later she confessed it was the best meal of her life. Now she sat at my table, staring at white bread, venison steak, roasted wild boar, rich bear stew, and thick vegetable soup. I know what you are thinking. This feels like heaven to her. Little nose twitches, secretly smelling everything so tenderly, not stop swallowing. Hands trembled in her lap, desperately wanting to grab the food, but not daring to without explicit permission. Her inner struggle was painful. Can I eat? Is this a trap? Will they beat me if I try? It looks so delicious. Come on, Gwyneth, I said, but she did not react, completely hypnotized. Gwyneth jumped from her chair like a startled squirrel. She almost slammed into the table, but Green's quick reflexes saved her, catching her neck like a tiny kitten. How old are you? I asked. Blinked, lifted her hands, and started moving her fingers like playing an invisible piano to count her age. 10, no, 11. Really does not know. Standing at barely 1.3 meters tall, she had messy black hair, huge eyes, and hollow cheeks like shadows, practically a skeleton. That she survived 2 years alone in the wild mountains is a miracle, or proof her weird curse works in reverse. You know who I am, right? Good Lord. Good. Now you are my assistant. That means staying close. If I eat this, you do too. Go ahead. She sat there processing. Without hesitating, her hand shot out like a cobra, snatched a piece of white bread, and stuffed it in her mouth. Her cheeks puffed out completely. Looked exactly like a tiny squirrel that just robbed an entire bakery. Erin silently slid a glass of milk toward her. Good man. She chewed incredibly fast yet carefully, grinding everything before swallowing. This poor girl learned to eat like it was her absolute last meal, because it usually was. Scythe suddenly appeared beside me. Wanted to stop her poor manners, but I held him back. Let her eat. You and I know everyone deserves a chance. All right, stick with me as we see how we save this poor girl. Breakfast, we headed to Skag Town, where composting was going smoothly. Already piled up over 30 tons of fertilizer. Honestly, it is amazing what you can achieve by motivating an entire town with food. Moore greeted me at the entrance, standing alongside 2 people who were literally shaking with fear. My lord, these are Hard and Seema Novak, Gwyneth's parents. The second Hard saw her. He fell straight to his knees. Noble lord, please, that demon is not our daughter. Please do not burn us alive. Gwyneth's face lit up seeing them, but immediately died down. Her own father was rejecting her in the cruelest way possible, right to her face. Gwyneth is my assistant now, I said coldly. From this day on, when you look at her, you are looking at me. Understood. Hard's instincts kicked in. The Lord claimed the witch. The church could not touch his family anymore. His face shifted from pure terror to submissive gratitude, so fast it almost gave me a heart attack. Then her mother Sema spoke up, saying a witch came a few nights ago, but Hard desperately yanked her arm. Shut up, woman. Seema insisted anyway, revealing all the details of Shasta's secret late-night visit. I already knew that, of course. I am fully aware. Do not speak of this. Get back to work. Praise the Lord. Hard gasped, grabbed his wife, and rushed away. Even so, Seema looked back at Gwyneth with a highly complicated expression. Now you and I need to watch that look closely. It is filled with guilt, fear, and absolute silence before the new ruler. Gwyneth watched her mother walk away with a gaze that was far too mature and sad for an 11-year-old. It is not my job to fix everything. At least, not yet. I mentally added reuniting this family without anyone getting burned to my already endless to-do list, building heavy plows and overthrowing the world order. Typical Tuesday. Gwyneth's powers are as hilarious as they are terrifying. She constantly radiates bad luck, and she is not even doing it on purpose. She cannot control it. Not even know which disasters are her fault or just standard medieval misery. Everything happened to her family: broken bones, collapsing roofs, and crazed farm animals. It was like living in an absurd comedy, but without any laughter from her parents for throwing her out. Honestly, no. A poor family cannot survive that much bad luck. Broken leg means you cannot harvest. No harvest means no food, and no food means death. They were drowning, and Gwyneth was the anchor. It is sad, but I get it. I know what you are thinking. But hear me out on this theory. She actually has good luck too. How else did she survive years alone among monsters? Would find dead rabbits, edible mushrooms, and berries that were not poisonous. No predator ever discovered her hideout. Not just survival, it is a statistical impossibility. This girl is basically a flipped coin. Heads, your house collapses. Rabbit jumps straight onto your plate. As an awakened transcendent, I can resist her bad luck. Physics still applies, so she won't summon a meteor onto my head. Bones or structural collapses, and even those require very specific conditions. I'm not going to blow up just because a 12-year-old glares at it. I noticed something odd on the mountain. When Shasta and I were about to clash, a pack of wolves came out of nowhere and stopped us. A coincidence? Or did her power subconsciously prevent a bloody battle? No proof, but it is highly suspicious. If my entire harvest fails because of a skinny girl's bad vibes, I deserve to lose. Let us move to today's real win. The heavy plows were finally ready. Visited Lax's forge, where 8 or 9 men were hammering away like absolute madmen. The workshop was so packed they were basically hugging each other while forging the iron to finish those heavy plows. Progress was slow, but their speed was picking up. Still, I requested Lax to push the pace even more. Looked like he had not slept in 3 days, which was true, but he nodded anyway. Ready for another long night. Ordered extra meat rations, 1 pound of wild boar per meal. Asta brought that beast down, so we had to put it to excellent use. Loaded the 4 plows, took 6 oxen, and rode out on horseback to scout the terrain for the perfect farmland. Aaron and Green were driving the oxen carts right behind me. You and I both know Gwyneth is a wild mix of danger and luck. Green whispered to Aaron, "Want to bet what happens next?" Aaron said he bet they would plow fields. Green snapped that it ruined the bet, and concluded there was no deal, making Green roll his eyes. At spot, a massive plain north of Skagtown. The land had been resting for years, leaving the soil perfectly level and free of rocks or roots. All right, you and I are diving into this crazy story. Dismounted, grabbed some fertile soil and felt it. Perfect. Hooked up the heavy plow and drove it deep. The result was gorgeous. The blades sliced wet clay like warm butter. Rich, dark earth split open, tearing through tough roots and completely wrecking the hardened ground. Everything a basic light plow couldn't handle. This absolute beast shredded with ease. 100 meters as a test. I stopped and ordered my knights to clear 1 kilometer east and then north. Green pointed to himself, totally shocked. Him, yes you, a legendary combat knight. Grab that plow and farm, this is your life now. Other knights will judge me, he complained. What other knights? We are literally in the most isolated, useless basin in the kingdom. Who's going to watch you? The squirrels. Wanted to give them all plows, but realized they had 0 farming experience, so I paired them up to work together while I handled the second plow. Aaron accepted his new fate with total dignity, but Green opted for absolute drama and endless, miserable complaining. Meanwhile, Gwyneth watched us from the wagon, amused by 3 grown elite warriors arguing over dirt. She was probably wondering if society was better than eating wild mushrooms in the forest. Spoiler alert, yes, because mushrooms do not make stew. No lunch until you guys finish, I warned. Hearing that, Green literally withered like a flower in a dry season. Food is this guy's only motivator. In his lunch, and you will see the most incredibly obedient knight in history, mumbling while prepping the oxen. Other lords feed their elite forces soft white bread and roasted meat, in massive glory on the battlefield. And here I am, plowing dirt like some peasant with an expensive sword. On the other hand, Aaron just got right to work without complaining. His high tolerance for pain is like a monk. Gwyneth watched us with sparkling eyes from the wagon. About me, she was totally ready to help out. This girl grew up in the countryside. Hard labor is all she knows. She was super excited to pitch in. Just stay there. Do not move. In bones. Give her a plow, she will break in half. Bringing her along felt like taking a pet out to get some fresh air. Just a very unique and unusual pet. Sat down looking around like any bored kid from any century, staring at the sky, playing with wood scraps. Childish play completely transcends generations. Now, watch closely, this is where the fun begins. Watching this beast split the land flawlessly, and blades slice damp clay effortlessly, ripping 15 centimeters deep into soil that had literally never been touched before. Old plows only scraped the top surface. Massive giant tore the ground wide open, revealing rich, dark, ultra-fertile dirt. Seriously, it is spectacular. Though it took me over an hour just to plow 1.3 kilometers, these heavy plows are incredibly slow, but totally worth it. Green and Aaron finished fast by taking turns working, and Aaron, being such a crazy perfectionist, cleared every single rock, root, and dirt clump along the way as they moved. From above, we drew a perfect rectangle of 1 by 1.3 kilometers. That is 2,000 acres ready. You and I both know this face. When we met back up, Gwyneth gave me that classic starving look, big wide eyes, leaning forward, trying to act cool, even though she was clearly dying of hunger. To eat, I snapped my fingers. Right after lunch, Scythe ambushed me with documents. My lord, you really need to review the finances of Skagtown. I grabbed the heavy stack of leather files and wanted to burn them instantly. Records were an absolute disaster. A complete joke. Moore was running this entire territory like a personal piggy bank, completely unaccountable to anyone, only logged transactions whenever he felt like it. The Duke's collector came once a year, took a flat rate, and never verified anything. No idea how many people lived here. His epic financial strategy was the farmers alive, make them have babies, grow more crops, and steal all the profit. And when they starved, he loaned them grain at insane interest rates. I actually found a written record of this. Novak family loan 100 pounds of rye, paid back 150 after harvest, still owe 100. That is Gwyneth's family. We are talking about people so poor a broken leg would ruin them, while Moore became a millionaire loan shark. He was literally running a medieval loan shark ring. And remember, nobles here have complete power over their subjects. That includes, and I seriously wish I were joking, the right of first night. Some nobles actually abuse this. It is honestly a horror movie with taxes. And more, and he arrived sweating cold bullets as usual. And that is where we end their corrupt system. I snatched Scythe's pen and crossed out everything. And I are about to watch him cross them off like Sun Wukong rewriting the book of life and death. Understood, nodded frantically, knowing better than to argue. I had already confiscated every single piece of land. How will they pay their debts without controlling their land? I'm not naive at all. I know they secretly plant when I am not looking. Night guerrilla farming. Honestly, that is fine by me. As long as they work during the day, I will turn a blind eye. They still owe me half their harvest anyway. Not like they can hide an entire wheat field anyway. Brand new financial system starts right now. Every transaction is recorded, expenses are tracked, and income is documented. No more personal petty cash or loan sharking. Moore's cozy kingdom of creative accounting just got audited by a reincarnated player who is absolutely obsessed with spreadsheets. And somewhere else on the map, Gwyneth was happily eating her third bun, completely unaware that I wiped out her family's massive debt. You are welcome, kid. Think of it as a signing bonus for my future 6-star apostle. Moore just nodded with almost comical intensity. He expected me to absolutely explode with rage over these records. Instead, I just casually crossed everything right out, liberating for me. Scythe, you will be managing Skag's finances from this moment on. The heavy sigh of someone bearing bad news. My lord, we go bankrupt before winter. You and I need to look closely at these figures. The guards are not paid in cash. Instead, they receive their annual compensation entirely in grain, 140 of mixed grain, and a 50% tax exemption. Quite a sweet gig. You need major connections to get in. Administrators make even more. 5 silver coins, 120 pounds of wheat, 50 of mixed grain, 30 of meat, and complete tax exemption, being like absolute kings compared to the common farmers. They are the only ones allowed to own slaves. Annual payroll is around 8 gold coins, plus tons of wheat and meat, and that is not even counting what I owe Aaron, Green, and Scythe. Add them in, and the cost triples. And here is the crisis. Before I arrived, this town was doing fine, bought livestock, and everyone survived. And I showed up and completely shattered their entire production system, confiscated the lands, stopped the farming, and ordered everyone to collect manure and build plows immediately. Their reserves will only last until summer. In autumn, they can gather some wild berries and vegetables. In winter, everyone will starve. There will be no money to pay them because we are selling absolutely nothing. Scythe's message was loud and clear. Stop playing around and let them plant before we all die. My reaction:
Simple. Is that all?
Scythe looked at me like I had lost my mind again. First instinct: more money out of more. Embezzled profits for years. Here's a walking piggy bank. But why slaughter the pig when I already own the farm? Everything he has is already mine. Besides, he has been incredibly useful and obedient lately. Look closely with me at what I just uncovered on this administrator's payroll. Why are they making this much? Moore sweated, desperately trying to dodge the subject. They are your relatives, right? I asked coldly. Brothers, cousins, wedding buckets, administrators from his own family. Moore had turned the town's entire administrative structure into a highly profitable family business. They all got comfortable salaries, massive benefits, and zero accountability. Shameless nepotism right under everyone's nose. Was I worried about him betraying me? Not really. Orders were always followed perfectly. First slip up, I would remind them what combat nights are for. Getting rid of people solves any problem. Not exactly a friendly philosophy, but man, it gets results. New salary structure. 1 silver coin a year, 100 pounds of wheat, 300 of grain, no meat, but keeping the exemption. 20% pay cut. Any objections? I asked, smiling warmly at Moore. His terrified internal monologue was practically written all over his face. And salary was not cut, but my 17 uncles will riot. If anyone has complaints, tell them to face me in person. Your wish is my command, Lord Roman. Obviously, absolutely nobody was brave enough to complain directly to me. Complaining to a ruthless killer is like arguing with an active volcano. That greedy family will easily survive on their savings. They just need to stop eating meat daily. Welcome to austerity, you parasites. Moore reported on the fallen guards. Let us see how their families are doing. Come along with me. Each fallen guard's family received 5 silver coins, meat, and wheat. Really injured received 2 silver coins, 15 pounds of meat, and 40 of wheat. And Green hand-delivered everything, even to the lightly wounded. And 2 fully armored knights deliver packages to your door. Hits way different than a basic bureaucrat. Insanely generous that the wounded guards actually felt jealous of those who died. When your inheritance is worth more than your life, the plan works. Worst of all, I paid everything out of my own pocket, which was shrinking fast. Now I wanted to draft the remaining guards for some serious training. Their mountain performance was absolutely embarrassing. But I could not just give them a day off. They act as police and supervisors. I pull them for training, all production stops because nobody is supervising. Talk about medieval administration issues. I cannot train my army because they are literally my department heads. Somewhere out there, an economics professor is crying without knowing why. Lesson learned: never trust default work ethic. Free food doesn't motivate people, it just fills them up. You need a firm hand. Ordered Aaron to train them 3 hours a day. He hesitated. He had never been an instructor, but after seeing the guards drop like flies against a bear and wolves, he knew things had to change. Fine, he agreed. Green wasn't jealous about not being picked. It requires patience, and he has the attention span of a hyperactive hummingbird. Pay close attention here because I dropped a massive bombshell. Now the guards would receive a monthly salary. 2 copper coins, wheat, grain, and meat. Moore blinked in total confusion. Salaries, that sounded almost insignificant. But then his brain caught up. Wait, monthly. In this world, guards are basically conscripts. They only get yearly rations and tax breaks. A monthly cash salary was unheard of, making this the most coveted job in town. but I added a catch, fail my standards and you are out. Stand out and you get sweet bonuses. Also merged the hunters into the guard with Dota as captain. Moore was breaking into a cold sweat when I finished speaking. He practically ran out to announce everything. Suddenly, Scythe materialized behind me like a highly disappointed ghost. Lord, you still haven't solved our winter bankruptcy. Executive pay, but raised the guard's salaries. The net savings is practically zero. And he is right, the real cash drain is my team. And Green demand gold. Between those salaries and the artisan fees, my budget is absolute chaos. But I will fix it before spring ends, I assured him with total confidence. He wanted to argue. And honestly, I bet you would also doubt me here. Still, I think a part of Scythe, buried deep under decades of absolute obsession with etiquette, actually believes in me, watched me grow up, and knows I am not normal. Next, he ordered me to button my crooked shirt collar. You have mud on your pants, it is highly undignified. Then he started dusting me off like a little kid. He adjusted my clothes, brushing off dirt while complaining endlessly. Just stood there and took it, because honestly, arguing over etiquette is way worse than fighting wild wolves. Once he left, I grabbed the heavy plow, gathered 50 veteran farmers, and headed to the 2,000-acre plot. For action, personally demonstrated how to use the plow, hitched the oxen, and drove it deep into the ground. The heavy steel blades sank deep, making dark, rich soil burst out to the sides like ocean waves. Rocks, thick roots, and hard clay flew everywhere. Local farmers completely lost their minds witnessing this beast work. Lord's plow is massive and wide. You do not even step on it. Look, it just unearthed a massive rock, and a root as thick as my arm. Deep black earth was unearthed. They were literally jumping with joy. These people had farmed their entire lives using flimsy light plows that barely scratched the dry surface soil. They literally had to stand on their plows just to dig deeper. And then, harvests were mediocre, pure faith-based farming. Now they were watching rich soil churn up from depths they had never seen in their entire lives. They did not need scientific lectures or agricultural data. They were seeing the raw power with their own eyes. Rich, nutrient-packed soil, hidden since before their grandparents were born, was ready for planting. The shocked whispers. Wait, the Lord actually knows how to plow. Nick is way better than mine. Who is the real farmer? I overheard that and nearly laughed. But here was the key thing I had overlooked. These men were desperate. Spending 3 whole days hauling manure instead of planting had pushed them straight to their absolute limit. They knew nothing about fertilizer, only that planting season was slipping away. The next part gets absolutely insane. All right, you and I are looking at a world where a peasant revolt was brewing, but his showcase arrived just in time. Collective relief was almost tangible. Shoulders relaxed, clenched fists opened, and hope finally returned to faces once filled with absolute despair. The Lord is not crazy, he actually has a plan. That heavy plow turns the earth like nothing they have ever seen before. Maybe we will not starve after all. Ordered 50 farmers to plow deep into those 2,000 acres. 4 plows for 50 people seems tiny, but the real work is not plowing, it is clearing out all the accumulated debris. Rocks, roots, weeds. This morning I hit a buried stump that took 15 minutes of cursing and pulling to yank out, and those broken roots were still stuck down there. 2,000 acres of that nightmare. Those 50 men are going to earn every single bite of their free food. Since I arrived, I felt a shift in the air. Fear was slowly turning into pure curiosity. Resentment gave way to a cautious hope. Still think I am totally insane, but now they think I am a competent madman. It is progress. Before this, all this land was a wild forest. Now watch closely here. This is where you hit a buried stump every few steps like a wooden landmine. Nobody removed them because they lacked proper tools and did not care. But I refused to let a single root ruin my premium land. We clear everything. My available workforce is 700 people after subtracting town services. Most are still clearing debris, but they will finish in 3 days. Afterwards, every free hand will be sent to plow these 2,000 acres until the land begs for mercy. The heavy plow stats show 0.5 meter of width per pass, and it only needs 1 deep run. 2 oxen plow 6 acres a day if they move in a straight line. That is why I chose this flat, clear ground. Running that plow is like parking a massive truck in a tiny space, a total nightmare. It needs 7 days for 40 plows, so each plow goes into service the moment it is forged. 10 days in total to plow 2,000 acres. acres, and the compost will be ready. Plow deep, plant and fertilize. It is a race against time. Spring waits for nobody. There is one detail I have not told anyone. This year we are only farming 2,000 acres instead of 10,000. You and I both know that if they find out, a massive revolt will erupt. Them? 2,000 acres for 2,000 people means starving to death. They do not understand deep plowing, compost, or seed selection. They know that less land equals famine and death. Am I going to explain the science behind this to them? Absolutely not. Am I going to negotiate? No, and if I have to crush a rebellion to maintain order, I'll do it without hesitation. Even if 100 farmers die, the remaining 1,700 will obey, keeping my agricultural revolution right on track. It sounds cruel, but I did not reincarnate in this medieval hell to win a popularity contest. My word is absolute law here. Period. Now here is the exciting part. The planting, 4/5 of the workers will be freed from the fields. 4/5. For generations, every single resident of this basin was chained to the soil from birth until they died, breaking labor on terrible land for miserable harvests, a constant curse disguised as a simple way of life. I will break that curse. Those free hands will build roads, dig mines, and transform this basin into an unmatched empire. But let us take this step by step. The game system showed me iron and stone deposits during my walk yesterday. I cannot mine the mountains yet first. I need proper infrastructure. Mapping my entire territory would take 6 months to a year of non-stop walking, which is impossible right now. What I can do immediately is level up my gathering skill by chopping down some wood. There is a dense forest to the north I wanted to clear since day one. It is just wasting fertile soil and useful materials. So today it disappears. First I checked on the kids. Hans and German were teaching basic letters and numbers to 300 students outdoors. We're not brilliant students, but I did not expect geniuses either. The only goal now is basic literacy. Everything else will follow. Grabbed an axe from the supply shed and headed deep into the woods all alone. Suddenly I heard tiny footsteps behind me. Beneath was following me closely like a little duckling. Why are you following me? She stopped in fear. You said I was your assistant. I was going to send her to class, but remembered her cursed aura might cause terrible accidents for Hans and German. A falling blackboard here, a student tripping there, and my expensive teachers demanding worker compensation. Fine, you can come along. Her face lit up with the biggest smile I had ever seen. She walked on her tiptoes, taking happy little leaps. And honestly, you and I are going to love seeing how she has zero fear of cursing me with her bad luck. Come with me to explore the story of a little girl whose powers brought nothing but pure terror to everyone. Exact thing, absolute, unquestionable power. For a kid called a curse, hiding behind his strength is like taking shelter under a mountain during a storm. It can touch you. Nothing can hurt you. The mountain does not care about your tiny curse, and I am her mountain. Her doom aura tries anything funny while I am cutting trees. Well, I am a transcendent with an axe and anger issues. Physics still apply. The absolute worst case is a branch falling on me and my skull is incredibly hard. Time to chop wood, calamity girl. This daddy has gathering experience to farm. North of my estate, past the 10 acres of orchard I already planted, is a forest that has annoyed me from day one. Today it pays. I stepped up and analyzed my enemy, mostly red pine with some elm and ash. Thick, arrogant trees surrounded by dense bushes and grass so tangled nobody could pass. This forest thought it was safe. I spent the first 30 minutes clearing a path through the edge. Dry bushes, weeds, and thickets. Pay attention here. Seeing little Gwyneth helping him out so sweetly proves she just wants to earn her own place. I'm gathering experience points. Wow, look at that. And clearing weeds gives experience. Leveling this skill up will be fun. Then I found something beautiful under the pines. 10-centimeter layer of decomposed needles, pure natural compost, ready to use fertilizer, of rotting leaves creating the perfect nutrient-rich soil. It was not enough for massive fields, but perfect for my 10 acres of orchard right next door. Free fertilizer with zero shipping costs. Just gather and spread. This annoying forest became a free dispenser in under 5 minutes. A bit more now, but I am still destroying it. First target, a 15-meter tall, 80-centimeter wide pine, real giant. Stripped the bark to expose the white wood and started using my chopping technique. Final strike down. The axe sinks 4 or 5 centimeters deep, purely from momentum. No brute force needed. Pull back and repeat. Several diagonal cuts. I switched to horizontal ones to carve a wedge and widen that V-notch. Rhythm is everything. And to chop all afternoon without burning out in the first hour like some existential rookie lumberjack. 10 minutes. Standard 30-centimeter notch. Then comes a second cut from behind and a third on the sides. Wood chips fly several meters away. I know what you're thinking, seeing her hypnotized by the axe is adorable, but just wait until the chaos starts. She snapped out of it and ran. 5 more swings and a crack, and started falling slowly and majestically right toward me. I made the opposite cut higher on purpose to force it to fall in the other direction. Physics dictated it should fall the other way, but physics did not account for the cursed child 20 meters away, sending good luck to me and bad luck to the tree. The tree fell backward, solely because Gwyneth's presence made the universe decide to target and mess with me specifically. I calmly stepped aside. 15-meter pine would have crushed me right where I stood if I were just a simple, malnourished, slow farmer. But I am a transcendent with fast reflexes and a lot of patience for cosmic irony.
Wow. 2 gathering experience points for 1 tree.
An hour per tree is a pretty decent pace. Stripped the branches, turned it into a clean log, and tossed it onto Gwyneth's growing pile. Then Aaron showed up, asking how to train the guards tomorrow. I was blunt. Start with the absolute basics. Stand at attention, form lines, turn on command, count and march. I need a real military unit, not peasants with spears. He nodded. He had heard me talk about this since we were kids. I dream of building an unstoppable army. In the Duke's territory, there was never room for my plans. Here, however, I have a blank canvas. They raise their pay and rations, I added. So push them hard. No excuses. Spring, I will recruit farmers too. Your current guards will be the future officers. Ask Green for help if you need it. And walked away with purpose. That man was born for this job, though he did not know it yet. Returned to my forest massacre until a tiny voice stopped me. My lord, this is for you. Beneath was holding out 2 cupped hands filled with wild hazelnuts. Found them in the dry brush, last year's harvest perfectly preserved. No mold, no bugs, no moisture. She probably stole some squirrel's retirement savings. I cracked one open with my axe and ate it, a sweet ending to the day. You are going to want to see what happens next to this duo. Stared at the ground shy. Come with me as we uncover the sad reality of a little girl surviving 2 years alone in the wild. Nuts, berries, and mushrooms were her only food. She wasn't showing off a snack. She was offering the only valuable thing she knew how to find. Her only precious possession. Every single one of them, without saying a single word about it. She smiled like the sun coming up. So I grabbed my axe to keep chopping trees I need to level up and pretend this emotional moment never happened. Yesterday, 5 trees fell for experience. Today brought 3 large ones and 2 pretty small ones. Arms felt like wet noodles, but my gathering experience was rising beautifully. 20 points. With 80 left until level 2. A few more days logging and I will unlock mining and stonemasonry. Priorities. Gwyneth sat on a log the entire time, watching me chop wood like it was the most incredible show on earth, resting her chin in her hands, wide-eyed and completely absorbed. This girl spent 2 years alone in the woods with 0 stimulation. So, honestly, watching some guy swing a sharp blade at wood must be the absolute best entertainment imaginable for her. Every single time a tree fell, she handed me a towel like she was my trainer at a boxing match. Last night, Scythe warned me the farmers were restless, were demanding land at all costs. They would accept a 60% tax, up from 50. Just to farm the old way. Just ate and said, why would I give them land? They say it violates the lease agreement, my lord, and it does. Let them complain to the Black Iron King himself. Scythe wants me to take it slow. 100 acres first, then expand next year. Safe, sensible, boring, and extremely slow. I did not travel to the world's end to play it safe. I am going all in. I'm to change the game. No turning back. Because what happened that morning is going to leave you completely chilled. I was chopping my 8th tree when a servant came running from the manor, pale with fright. Lord, we have serious trouble. I rushed back to the estate and saw it instantly. Hundreds of farmers had marched up my hill, forming a massive angry mob. My guards formed a wall with their spears. Aaron and Green waited up front in heavy armor, looking like statues, warning them not to even try it. There was blood on the ground. Someone had already tried something incredibly stupid. Moore and his assistants were hiding behind whatever they could, utterly useless. But Scythe, that strict, formal old man, standing right in front of the crowd, tall and firm, them like a teacher addressing his classroom, unarmed and outnumbered by hundreds. A magnificent, stubborn lunatic. I will give him a raise. In my heart, obviously, since I cannot afford it. Yet at the top, the crowd surged in rage, and stepped forward, raising his shield like an impenetrable stone wall against the rising tide, wielding scythe. Think you are doing? I shouted. Absolute silence. Everyone stared. Up front were elderly farmers, shaking yet standing firm. One spoke up. My lord, we need land. Denied, the crowd roared in anger behind him. And you gave is tiny, they say. And yes, here is where you and I understand their desperate situation. They looked at my 2,000 acres and did their grandfather's math. It is not enough, not for their calculations or experience. In their minds, 2,000 acres for 2,000 people means starving to death. They do not know about deep plowing. They ignore composting, seed selection, and how one well-worked acre yields more than 5 of their neglected plots. They only see a tiny field, massive population, and children starving. They fed that fear for a day before exploding. The old man's voice was weak but steady. We need you to distribute the land so we do not starve. And if you raise taxes, we will accept it. Ignored him. Work today. How much fertilizer is piled? How many acres have been plowed? New heavy plow from the forge. He shook his head. My lord, we beg for mercy. No hope. These people were not greedy or rebellious. They were just terrified of the grim future that awaited them. Parents looking at their children and seeing winter starvation. It is not something you fix with a fancy speech. But I cannot back down either. If I give them the land, my entire grand plan completely falls apart. The laborers would scatter across 10,000 useless acres. No one would work my optimized fields or build infrastructure. No one would mine, and my 10 days of effort would be worthless. I looked at those hundreds of scared, desperate faces and said the only possible thing. Tell me what will make you obey my orders. I wasn't diplomatic, but I never promised to be a saint. I promised real results. The real question is whether these people will survive long enough to actually see them. I stared them down. Nobody backed away. And that's where we leave them locked in unbearable tension. What do you think happens next? Let's dive in. This old farmer is confronting his lord for stealing all their land, broke every agreement. We cannot survive like this. You must understand, a farmer is nothing without land, and your knights cannot live without fine bread. Answer: no more taxes and no more hunger. I have plenty of ways to feed you. Obey me, that is all I ask of you right now. He shook his head. No, my lord. How can 2,000 acres feed us all? What if I swear it as an oath, this year, next year, forever? Until my very last day as your lord, no one starves. Still doubt me. The old man thought deeply for a long moment. Though you are questioning me, you ruin yourself. Leave now. I will overlook your disrespect. Not leave. Instead, he dropped the most devastating argument ever. We know what 1 acre yields, and what 2,000 acres produce. They do not work miracles. We only trust what we can see. Give us a chance, and we will feed you. You have been kind, giving us oats and working beside us. You plow better than anyone. The slaves have never seen a lord like you. But grain has physical limits. In the end, we will eat dirt. When famine strikes, you can just leave. But what about us? He was right about one thing. 2,000 people on 2,000 acres with strange methods is pure madness. Look closely at this. I was asking them to gamble their children's lives on my word alone. So you refuse to obey. He said, we only want land, Millard. You cannot trap us on those acres. Even if you say it is enough, that is like claiming we will never worry about food again. Your promise is too good to be true, he whispered. That was when the rebels stepped forward and took a step. The others followed him. People stood in total defiance, and praying I would back down. I drew Green's massive greatsword. 10 pounds of two-handed steel, yet I spun it with one hand. These were the elders of Skagtown. 40 or 50 years old, actual elders for medieval times, spent their entire lives reading the land. I knew for a fact my plan was impossible. As long as they lived, the rebellion would continue. They would stir up resistance, dragging others into disobedience, wasting precious days that I simply do not have. The old man stared at the blade, knowing exactly what was coming. Though trembling, he straightened his hunched back, and threw with my sword. Then the next, and the next. None of them fought back. They dropped like old oxen. One final gasp, then total silence. 13 bodies on the grass. Dark-skinned young farmer pushed through the crowd and collapsed, weeping over the first body. His cold father. Name? Millard. He was Matthew Borrow, a 1-star apostle. I had pulled his card from the summoning system days ago, but never saw his face. Now I did. He had tried to stop his father, but the old man was stubborn. Someone had to take a stand. Even if a cold bleed was the only way to be heard, he succeeded but lost everything. And borrow. I'm promoting you to agriculture manager. We'll work tirelessly with the others to farm this land. You will see what your father never believed possible. Think about this moment as everyone holds their breath. Obey me, support me, serve me. Give me your simple, ordinary lives, and I will protect you from danger forever. In any year, until my final day of rule, I let a single person starve, I surrender my sword, and point first into the dirt, its bloody blade burying itself in the grass, right up to the hilt, and draw this weapon and pierce my chest. Total silence. The wind blew softly across the open fields, and walked away. There is nothing funny about this part of the story. No jokes here. 13 people died because their reality could not grasp the world I am trying to build. They were not fools, nor were they villains. Old man was braver than most knights, speaking up despite knowing the ultimate price, and yet I slaughtered him. Because if I hesitated for even a single second, my entire plan would collapse. Fields would lie barren, the revolution would die, and next winter would bring thousands of deaths. Not 13. I repeat those words to myself constantly. The sword remains driven into the ground, right where I left it. Let it rust there, keeping the unbreakable promise we just witnessed alive forever. All right, you and I are about to dive into this wild story. I'm wrong about those 2,000 acres. That sword is mine. I was ready to wipe out 100 people. Turns out I only needed 13. Let me explain why this was not the apocalypse everyone was dreading. Imagine some guy invents a miracle fertilizer and tells a modern country to abandon 80% of its farmland, makes crops grow 5 times faster. Nobody would believe him, and the protests would be absolutely insane. Scale that down to a town of 2,000 people where the miracle is fermented manure and a heavy plow. Reaction, just fewer people. The math of rebellion they never teach you. Everyone hated my plan, total rejection. But opposition always has different levels. Level 1, people who disagree but yield, is more than half. Level 2, those who strongly oppose but are too afraid to protest, that is half of the rest. Level 3, those who want to protest but fear death, more than half of those. And level 4, people actually willing to die for their ideals, just 13. Of nearly 2,000 residents, honestly, I never pushed them to the limit. Their pantries still had food. Comics still had lunch, my free lunch. Nobody was starving today. They just feared starving when winter came. No fear, not desperation. Fear does not cause revolutions. Hunger does. You and I need to watch what happens next. Everyone went back to work, not because they love me, but because the alternative was worse. Deep down, they are highly practical. Those 2,000 acres are their only hope for a harvest this year. It matters more to them than it does to me. They will farm it like their lives depend on it, because they really do. And if I am wrong, the sword will stay stuck in the ground, rusting in the rain, waiting for someone to pull it out and claim my promise. Everything went back to normal, and I returned to chopping trees. Day 4 of my lumberjack career, I had cleared a massive area, an hour per tree. My technique was getting cleaner and far more efficient. My gathering experience was constantly climbing. Suddenly, Scythe brought me a visitor, a traveling merchant named Darkin, a thin guy with a weird mustache and a pouch of coins. He sailed to Skagtown expecting routine trade, only to hear the new lord confiscated land, restricted crops, and executed protesters. Terrified, the guy tried to run, but my guards caught him immediately, so I put on my friendliest face. So you are a salt merchant. Not just salt, my lord, I also carry wool, wine, medicine, candles, cheese, and butter. Poor guy rattled off his inventory like a terrified hostage, mentally calculating his losses if I confiscated absolutely everything. Backup plan involved filing guild insurance claims and bringing a lawsuit to the royal court. But with my family name being CKSKLE, that lawsuit would be buried faster than the tree stumps I dig up. Salt do you have? Around 500 pounds at 1 copper coin each. It is worth double or triple further north. Salt trade economy is wild. Buying at 2 silver coins per 100 pounds, then selling at 1 gold coin instead. The profit margin is insane, but supply is limited. Big players control the market, leaving guys like Darkin with crumbs. Not need his salt today. only information. The real question, how much do slaves cost? Blinked in surprise. Common ones start at 1 silver coin. Strong or skilled ones cost 2 to 5 silvers. Injured ones are 8 coppers or less. How many can you bring? Maybe 20. I will pay 20 gold. You and I would not believe how fast his spine snapped straight. 120. 20 gold is a fortune. Transporting them to this remote basin raises costs to nearly 1.5 silvers each, but the profit is still massive. His eyes were calculating numbers at the speed of light. He requested a 1-month minimum. Without recent wars on the Black Iron Continent, local slaves are not easy to find. He would have to search other lands. Gave him 10 gold coins up front, 10 upon delivery, and then sweetened the deal. His trade tax rate in Skagtown would be only 5%, he gasped. Other nobles usually charge 10 to 16% and demand a 33% salt tax. Since basically work for free under those greedy lords, 5% on everything, including salt. Your generous policies will echo along the Great Bro River, he stammered in shock. Exactly. Low taxes attract merchants. They bring goods, the economy booms, and our own power grows right along with it. Not complicated. The nobles on this continent are just way too stupid and greedy to ever understand. Darkin practically skipped to the office to collect his advance. So my current shopping list now includes 50 oxen, 100 Mori draft horses, 120 slaves from Darkin, 40 lakhs heavy plows, 2,000 acres to till, and tons of compost. That is where we leave it a crazy list for a lord who spends his afternoons chopping trees with a cursed girl. Trust me, it only gets wilder. And that, my friends, is how an empire grows, blow by blow.